Good afternoon. The November 18th, 2025 work session is now in order. Paul, roll call, please.
Mr. Trent?
Here.
Mr. Susan?
Here.
Ms. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Campbell?
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of
Same
Allegiance.
stuff we have.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Rendell, can you speak to the board about the items on the agenda for today?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a full agenda today, a lot of presentations, and then some time for board discussion. First, we're going to have a presentation about People One Health. It's an option that we are looking at to provide some better clinic services for our employees. Then we're going to have a presentation about the Schools of Hope, presentation about the sales surtax renewal draft plan, and a presentation about possible boundary changes for school year 26-27. Then we'll have some time, hopefully, for board discussion about their meeting dates for 2026 and also the committee assignments that will be voted on tonight.
Our
First presentation will be People One Health, and have Ty Arlen and Jordan Taradesh here. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they're going to share all the good work that People One Health does.
All right. Welcome.
All right. Thank you guys for having us here. Is this, speaking into this, I'm okay? You guys can hear me just
Oh,
fine?
yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right, so here today to talk about a different way of delivering primary care. And one of the ways that we always like to start our meetings is kind of hypothetical, but if you think about a plan that you could provide your members with savings and better health, the district's self-funded plan could save dollars. Your members could get the highest rated experience in primary care or medicine that's available to them, and it all came with a performance guarantee. Is that a world that we would all want to be living in, right? And overwhelmingly, the answer is always, well, of course. Our plan here is to show you exactly how we get you there, because we believe we've made that model possible, okay? So I'm going to start real quick with just an overview and a high level of what we do. So if you think about everything in that blue box that you see on the screen, unlimited utilization, 30 to 60-minute appointments, a one-on-one relationship with an actual physician, better access to about 350 plus generic drugs that are included in a membership, and 99% of all lab work that gets done in-house in our facilities. And because we're not dealing with insurance and prior authorization and claims and all of those pieces, our people in our health centers can actually do true care coordination within concierge medicine. So when somebody needs an established appointment outside with a specialist, we can actually walk them through that process, get speed to appointment faster, and get them the access and care that they need on the spot, okay? As we move into the green box, this is where we separate ourselves from a traditional primary care model. In our health centers, every service that we include has a registered dietitian, a health coach, a licensed clinical social worker. The reason that's important is when somebody comes in for their first intake, for their first visit, and they sit down with one of our physicians, they get screened for mental health and alcohol and drug treated type problems. And if they score high, we can intervene right away, and part of their care team can be a licensed clinical social worker that can help them through those situations and through those problems. Along with that, we have a clinical pharmacist. That clinical pharmacist's job is to work with people who are on medications and make sure they understand all the medications that are in our formulary, that are included in our model, can be dispensed or given to them from our facilities. And they also can help work them through situations where you've got somebody who, let's say they've got hypertension and they've got diabetes, and they're taking multiple medications, but when they take them, they have adverse reactions, they don't feel great, one of them makes them feel lightheaded, dizzy, nauseous, and so they stop taking it, which is a terrible scenario. We work through that problem with them, make sure that they are on the right drugs, that they have the right doses, and that they're taking them and getting them filled and taking care of themselves. And the last thing in there is that we have specialty consults. So our physicians within our walls have access to about 75 subspecialists. So somebody comes in, they have blood work done, and perhaps they need to go to a specialist to go see something. We can actually, about 75% of the time, keep those people in our walls, treat them, because our doctors have access to those specialty consultants who can walk them through what they need, right? And if they do, in fact, still need to go out of our walls and go see a specialist, we actually will go back to that concierge medicine. We'll help take them through that process and get them the care they need when they need it and help them get those appointments established, okay? The last part of that green box is technology. Everything we do is brick and mortar, but we also have a virtual care piece around it. So oftentimes, you may have a teacher who comes in and sees us for something, and there's a follow-up they need, but they don't have the time to get out of class, come back into the health center and see us, but during lunch, they can hop on a quick 15-minute call and just check in and make sure that everything that they had done and the way they're feeling is still working, right? So we just try to make it convenient and meet the members where they are in their healthcare journey and make sure that they have everything they need, okay? The last piece, and I think this is one of the most important pieces, is in our model, we also include outpatient behavioral health, unlimited physical therapy, all the imaging, x-rays, CT scans, MRIs, mammograms, anything that needs to be done from an imaging perspective, cardiology testing, pulmonology services. So think of somebody who maybe they have trouble sleeping and they need, they go get a sleep study done and the study comes back that they have sleep apnea and now they need a CPAP machine. Those are all very costly services. I think an average CPAP machine now is like $3,000 or $4,000, maybe more. In our model, all the durable medical equipment and everything is included in that model. So that patient comes in, they have those problems, we treat them, we take care of them, we get them the equipment they need, even ongoing when they need new hoses and new filters and any parts for the durable medical equipment, we have that covered as well. And the benefit to the district is that all those claims that would typically hit the self-funded plan get disintermediated into our value-based model, and there's just one monthly fee that we charge per member per month. And all those services that are in that, those three boxes are included in that. So if you look to the right of the screen, 88% is 85 to 90% is the percentage of claims that we feel we can hit each of your members with. So pull those claims out of the self-funded plan, we pull them into our value-based model, and we keep them from hitting the self-funded plan. Ultimately, it's about 40% of the overall cost that you see for a member throughout the year when they need to go get treatment in a fee-for-service type model, okay? So our whole plan, our whole method is get the preventative care that they need, pull them into our model, train and teach them to think about their healthcare differently, and give them the access and the care that they need at a much lower cost to them and to you, okay? When you think about what that means to your members, there's no co-pays, no co-insurance, no deductibles. Everything is free to them because it's sponsored by the district. There's no paperwork, there's no bills, there's no surprise bills. So you go have a procedure done, you get home, and 30 days later you get a bill. That doesn't happen in our model. Everything is included. It's one pre-negotiated rate, and you only pay for those who raise their hand and decide to join the program. Insurance on the back end that they have today, so that insurance card that sits in their wallet or their purse, still stays there. And in the event they have an emergency, something comes up and they end up in the emergency room or in urgent care, then they'll use that card for that specific case. Everything else happens through us. So when you think about a hospital admission, a brand name drug, emergency room, or an outpatient surgery that was pre-planned, those are the things that are still going to hit your self-funded plan through their insurance. Everything else that they have done when they come into our health center, we take care of it, and it's in our value-based model. There's no claims that ever hit the plan.
Ty's a lot taller than me, so can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
That actually moves up and down, believe it or not.
Does it?
You're good.
I'll
You're
break
perfect.
it, so we'll just go with this.
All right.
So thanks, everybody. Great to spend time with you. So the story of People One Health usually leaves you with the question of why wouldn't we do this, right? So, but then there's the economics portion of this. So we had the opportunity to actually work with your district's claims data to model what this would have looked like if you had implemented this model, in essence, previously with your claims. So you can see here on the top left there, it's about a 30% engagement that's modeled here. So at this time, there was just over 10,000 folks on your plan. If about 30% of the population, that 3,077, had opted into this People One Health model, because it's voluntary, what you would have seen there is the total cost of care for that population would drop to about $5,181 compared to the current dollars and cents of about $7,700. When you net those two out, it's a savings of about $2,600 per member per year. Now, that total savings over that population, if you just multiply 2,600 times 3,077, that's where you see that $8 million in savings. Of course, you do have to pay people on health that one lump fee for all those services, but you're still netting about a $2.5 million positive back to your self-funded plan. So half that story, super important. But on the right side, you see the other half of this story. Your members would also save about $2.3 million in out-of-pocket costs because they're having all of those services, no co-payments, no deductibles, no co-insurance. So it's kind of this Pollyanna-ish win-win situation. Your self-funded plan claims will decrease, and your members also have a decreased expense in total cost of care. Okay? Along the bottom here just shows different levels of adoption, but it's just a linear relationship. If you then think about the accumulation of savings, that first year is great. You're netting a positive outcome of about $2.5 million, but those savings accelerate as you go through year 2 and year 3. It ends up being about $8 million in savings as you get towards that third year. And really, this is where the value comes in. Because we're giving folks so many services, helping them control chronic disease and prevent chronic disease and not go to the system, our folks' trend is about 1% to 2%. Whereas you'll see 6, 7, 8, 10, 12% is what you're seeing in essence in the regular healthcare system. So that savings really begins to expand as you go year after year. Same story when you look at your members. Their cumulative savings is about $7.5 million. So again, an accumulation of savings for your self-funded plan and for your members. Okay. I'll pause there if there's any questions. We have 1 or 2 more slides, but just want to pause for any questions for anybody.
I have one on the previous slide, if it's okay, Mr. Chair. When you looked at the claims data that you pulled in from our district specifically, what types of claims were you looking at? Were those our highest, most expensive claims, or was this just a general average claim that one of our people would have?
Yeah, excellent question. If you look in the kind of leftmost box there, that's $79,914,000. That's your entire claims experience. So it is the entire, everything.
That's everything?
Everything, yes.
Okay,
That's
all right.
correct.
Thank you.
Yes. To your point, we didn't cherry pick like the highest and say, hey, we'll take it. Yeah, no, it's the entire
you.
claims population. Great question. What else can I answer?
Anything else?
Talk to me about, and I know we had this conversation when we came for a visit, but talk to me about the back and forth. If someone comes in and they're through their regular course of care, discover, high blood pressure, heart condition, whatever. Talk to me about how that, what it looks like for a member, for employee or a spouse, whatever, to come in and how it stays within the People One model where it's not having to go outside.
Yeah. So important. Really appreciate that, right? Because I'm sure you've experienced this and heard that so much frustration in the healthcare system. I don't understand it. It takes me forever to get an appointment. I get all these bills, right? You know all this story. So your point is so important about kind of keeping everyone in this concierge ecosystem. So if you come in, the first time you're with us, we have 75 minutes blocked for you. You don't have to stay that entire time. But the point is, it's not like, tell me what's going on now, here's your medication, kind of good luck kind of thing. We're really going to get to know you, your family, your medical history, and the challenges that you have going on there. So for this individual, they're going to be diagnosed with hypertension, maybe type 2 diabetes at the same time. Right, what's going to happen there is the registered dietitian and the clinical pharmacist are going to come into that care team and say, hey, we're going to help you from a lifestyle standpoint and a medication standpoint. We're going to get you your medications because it's all included here. All your lab work and the blood pressure checkups and whatnot, they're right here. And you know what? Maybe you're struggling with behavioral health. If you have comorbid type 2 diabetes and depression, you cost your plan 2 to 3 times more. Now, we're not going to say that to your member, but the point is it's so hard to manage a chronic disease when you're struggling with depression as well. Well, we're not going to send you out separately. We're going to help you treat your behavioral health, your physical health, all together. So that's, at the end of the day, we're your medical home. We're going to do 90% of everything you need there without sending you around on that carousel. Does that help?
It does, and then if someone needed to be referred out to a cardiologist, how does that work within the People One model?
Yeah, great question. So as Ty mentioned, your folks still have their insurance card, just like they have today, so nothing changes. Okay. The difference is your care team is going to understand your specific needs and help you find within that network the best cardiologist that maybe specializes in your situation. And we're going to help set those appointments. And then after that appointment, we're going to follow up and get your medical records so we can continue your course of care. As opposed to, I think you've all experienced, like, when you go to that specialist, make sure you get it back to your primary care physician. How does that happen, and how are you going to continue that on? We're going to actually do that for you to keep that continuity of care.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you.
questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. I got more too, so.
Man, I love the fact that you guys are all engaged, because I don't have to ask
Go
any
ahead, John.
questions.
Go ahead, John.
I'd just like you to articulate how you guys go about choosing your physicians, and what would give our employees the confidence that your physicians are better than what they might have in the general sector.
Yeah, it's a really important question, and I'm gonna start at the end of your question. Our physicians are not better. They just have the ability to actually practice medicine the way they want to. It's not physicians that are the challenge, it's the system, right? The system says you have 5 to 7 minutes to see a member. You have to see 35 members, so they don't have time. They don't have a chance. So then I'll go to the beginning of your question. There are a ton of incredible physicians out there. However, what's unique about our model is for you to thrive as a physician, you have to love relationships, right? If you like that kind of 15-minute churn and you just like kind of hustling through your day, you're not going to do well in our model. But if you like spending time with folks, getting to know them and their families, kind of old school medicine, if you're exceptional at driving that relationship, that's what makes you stand out above it, and that's who we really recruit to join People Want Health. So take that physician who loves patient care and relationship and put them in a model where they can take 30, 45 minutes with a member and remove all the insurance stuff. That's why our physicians really thrive at practice. Does that help?
Yes.
Thank you for the question.
Great, good answer.
Another common complaint that we receive is that we can't get seen in our clinic model. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is different with People One versus the one we currently have?
Yeah, absolutely. So the staffing model is such that so our physicians see a maximum of 16 patients a day. What that does is ensures that we have same-day, next-day slots every single time. So if your members need to be seen, they will be able to get in same day, next day. That's portion number one. Portion number two is because you have this entire care team, a registered dietitian, a clinical pharmacist, a social worker. Let's say you're somebody with struggling with type 2 diabetes and you're doing relatively well. You can do ongoing continuing appointments with your registered dietitian or your clinical pharmacist. That keeps the time for our primary care physicians, for the folks who have the highest acuity or need to see right away. So that expanded care team really expands that access. One last thing, we cap the number of members that are seen at each individual health center. And what that does is it forces us to make sure we have enough health centers so that when you call, you need to come in. In Orange County, as you saw, we started with 4 health centers in there because gave us the ability to make sure we have same-day, next-day access for every single one of our members. That's how we put all the pieces together.
Okay. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more questions as this goes on, but Board, we may want to see the rest of the presentation before we continue to ask, so.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, Mr. Susan.
So this sounds great, like amazing, right? Like our amounts in every area, it looks like an improvement. Is there a guarantee that the cost doesn't increase per year? That like, if we sign a contract with you for this, that next year we're not going to see an 8%, 10% like the back door? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, really good. Right, sounds too good to be true, but what does this actually play out as? So we put our dollars and cents at risk. So our performance guarantee says for every dollar you as the district invest in that membership fee for each member, we will return the same amount in a reduction in total cost of care. So you're guaranteed a 1-to-1 return on investment. We'll put our dollars and cents at risk for that. We're going to do better than that, 20 or 30% reduction, but we'll put our dollars and cents at risk so that first year you can really see how this plays out and you're really not taking risk.
But the overall cost is not going to increase based upon, like, you're not all of it's going to say, now it's not $100 or $250 per member.
Got it.
It's not going to go to $270 to $280 to $290 because of it, once you get us handcuffed and you're in our buildings and everything
jack up
else.
your costs and
Right,
keep
right,
it
right,
going.
right.
That's how this system works. No, first of all, our first contract for those first 3 years will be locked in at that rate. We will not change the rate. We'll contractually lock those in. And the really cool thing, and we're already seeing this in Orlando, the more folks that utilize this, because the tax collector joined and other folks, that actually helps us spread out our cost. I'm not going to say in public we're going to lower your costs, because that would be unfair to say, but that helps us keep the cost stable because other businesses and the county government can share in those resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great questions.
I think we're good.
Good.
Carry
Okay.
on.
All right, we're almost done here. Thank you for bearing in with this. Okay, so we took 2 more slides. So, all right, cost savings for your district, cost savings for your members. But there's one other really important dimension, which is how are your members treated? How are your teachers and janitors and staff and their family members treated? And this is what we're exceptionally proud of. So Net Promoter Score is just a customer service rating in essence. The average Net Promoter Score in the healthcare system is about a 35. You all know why, it's just what it is. The average Net Promoter Score of a primary care physician's office that's owned by the system is a 3. Cable TV and cell phone operators are just to the left of that. It's not a joke, unfortunately, that's what it is. Our Net Promoter Score, our customer satisfaction score is 94. It's the fact that your members will come to you and say, I'm heard and I'm listened to, I'm cared for, my family has the time to get the care they need. That's our real mission, that's what we're here to dedicate for y'all. Okay, last slide, thanks for the soapbox. To your point, Mr. Susan, this is the 4 pieces of the puzzle here. We're going to save your folks money because they're going to have all these services while paying absolutely nothing. Your school district, we anticipate about a 30% lower total cost of care. The member experience there is exceptional, and then we'll put our money where our mouth is. We will guarantee that savings so you can actually see this play out. Last part here, we took a high-level kind of breeze through. Your input is going to be super important in this, so the details are not nuanced, but if we had the privilege to work with you all, we kind of looked at a phased approach here. On that left side is, in essence, the care model that your folks have access to, right now. In the kind of near immediate future, that middle box there will be the immediate increases in services that both your school district and your members will have. So we're going to be hiring physicians. They will be leading every single office to care for your members. We love nurse practitioners and registered nurses. They enhance that care team, but a physician leaves every single one of our offices. Medications is 300. You have about 50 or so medications now. We're going to increase that to 350. That means 300 more medications and those scripts will not hit your self-funded plan, and they will cost your members $0. And then we have 3,500 labs included. So that's nearly every single lab will never hit your self-funded plan anymore, and your members will pay $0 for that. No more kind of inconvenience and the question of, can I buy my child this Christmas gift, or do I get my health taken care of? We were removing those barriers. And then the second bucket is the expanded care team. Bring in the dietitian, the social worker, the clinical pharmacist, and round out their care team. And then phase 2, we're going to, in the medium term, we're going to enhance our care partner network to bring in that orange box to really expand those services to the entire service offering. Again, we were just looking from a high level standpoint, but took a stab at kind of putting these pieces together. That's all from our standpoint. Happy to take any more questions and really appreciate the time.
I've got some here.
All right, Ms. Kim.
All right, thank you, first of all, both of you, and for taking the time with us, several months ago to get to see the model and everything. So on that slide, we talked about this getting started, phase 1 and phase 2, if we were to approve contracts with People One today. What's the lead time? What's the run? Are you guys opening clinics and then that's phase 1 and then phase 2 comes in 6 months, or what's the typical progression?
Yeah, and we have experience with, in the school district of Osceola County, when we took that over, was an existing healthcare center. So it was our assumption, and you please point us in the right way, that you would want as much continuity of care for your folks as possible. Mm-hmm. So that phase 1 is actually us taking on the existing care centers, and as long as there's no contractual non-competes, as much as the care team as possible, and then we'll add on the physicians, but we'll be able to, in less than 60 days, in essence, take over and continue services as you see now. What we'll do parallel to that is we'll be sourcing at least 2 new centers in the community. We'll start building those care centers. We'll hire additional care teams. So it's kind of maintain and expand the services immediately and then get to that full model like you saw in Orlando. That's going to be about 9 to 12 months before we have all of that going. Does that help answer your question?
No, that is helpful. And my other question has to do with interagency or a multi-agency model, because like is happening in Orange, because one of the reasons why Brevard, why we can only have 3 clinics is we can't justify more, but if we partner, we're going to able to open something on the beach side, something down in South Palm Bay. I mean, if we don't use those, not a trailer, what do you call them? Mobile home type centers. I mean, if we move into shopping centers and, doctors' offices that have closed down, and I know that's kind of what you guys have done before, but like for me personally, I'm like ready, once we get going with whatever the model is going to be, let's get the partnerships going so we can open 4 or 5 at the, as soon as possible. So I know you have experience with that multi-agency model. I don't know if you can speak to how, and I know those conversations are already starting to happen, but what are some things we can do to kind of get that going so that we can open as many as possible right at the beginning?
Yeah, appreciate that. And this truly becomes a community benefit, right? You're doing this for your staff and teachers and whatnot, but then that extends to the entire community. So as soon as we choose to work together, and really we'll start that work right now, we have no problem doing it. But while we're working towards phase 2, we're going to parallel conversations with the counties, cities, any other of those public entities. So the ideal situation is kind of phase 2 also lines up with additional agencies joining on. That's what gets us to 4, 5, 6 health centers and really expands the access. If your intent is to wind down those mobile sites and then to kind of transition to this community, we'll help you get there so you maintain or expand access while we transition through that. I messed up, that's why Ty's standing here.
No, I was gonna add on that in our model, different and unique to what you've probably experienced in the past, is in our model, there's no capital expense on the front end, right? We go out and we source the buildings, we make the leases, they're on us. We hire all the physicians, all the care team, everybody that's in there. They're all People One Health employees. We manage our own folks and we source all the buildings. So I just want to make sure that's known, because as we continue to grow and as we continue to get the county and other groups in, that's how we build that footprint and get bigger community support.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the services that you offer in-house that maybe would be a traditional service that would be outsourced? Would you share some of that?
Absolutely. So I'll go back to the slide here. So let's go with the kind of more obvious ones. If you start on the bottom, outpatient behavioral health, outpatient physical therapy, those imaging services, cardiacs like stress tests and whatnot, sleep studies, durable medical equipment. Those aren't done in our facility, but they're part of our ecosystem. So what you'd be paying claims for right now to the self-funded plan, those all disappear. Those are included in our ecosystem. Then kind of bump up what's actually in our 4 walls. So take those top 2 boxes there. All of your lab work is going to be drawn there. All your 300 plus 50 generic medications. Initial behavioral health intervention. So we're never going to be sending folks out with behavioral health challenges. The social worker is right there for the care team. Specialty consults is super important. 75 subspecialists, that's endocrinology, rheumatology, all of those services which your folks are usually kind of sent out on the carousel, 75% of the time, we're going to be able to manage that through primary care. That's going to be a huge difference for your folks because their primary care team in their medical home. So that's less trips, that's less co-pays, that's less deductibles. That's a huge lift on that end. What else am I missing from?
Well, I was going to say, think of it I think we maybe talked about this at one of the tours, but think about a scenario somebody gets injured, right? I'm throwing the football with my son in the backyard over the weekend, and I wake up Monday and I can't lift my left arm because I'm old and I'm sore, right? And I come in and see my physician, and he says, hey, Ty, let's go get an MRI, right? In our model, I go get the MRI immediately. There's no prior auth. I get the MRI results back. My doctor says, great news, there's no tear, but we want to do joint injections, and I want you to do 5 or 6 physical therapy appointments. You should be on the mend and better after that, right? In our model, the only cost of that is the monthly membership fee. In today's world, that person goes to urgent care. There's a bill.
Yep.
They go to get x-ray first because they got to do that before they can get
Right.
prior auth. X-ray shows nothing. Now they got to go get prior auth for MRI, $1,500 for that. Then they come back, they got to do a joint injection, and then they do physical therapy, which every single one of those appointments is a cost, right? So there's a huge difference in the way our model works with how those patients are treated, and also there's no cost, and then the speed to it is what really is helpful for them.
Good. You're mentioning the cost per member, and so can you talk to us about that to some degree on what that looks like?
So In between 150 and 160 per member per month. That's the cost range it'll be. It'll be somewhere in between there. We'd have to look at the fine numbers together once we kind of got to the contract portion of it. But it's 150 to 160 per member per month. That's only for the folks who are raising their hand and saying, I would like to opt into this model. And I will say, because this is a bit of a unique situation, that would not start until we had the new community health centers open and the expanded access. That middle phase here was really just a transition and looking to keep your costs stable as they are. And then once we get into the full model, that's when we'll really be operating on this model here with the guaranteed one-to-one savings.
Okay. And is that, what if you have a family that has seven people in their family? So what, is that 150 per person, all 7 of them, or?
Excellent question. It is not. So I'll give you both sides of the equation. Let's say it's mom and dad and 3 kids on the family plan. But, dad loves their primary care physician, but mom doesn't. So only mom wants to use the People One Health model. The plan only pays 150 to 160 times 1, not because the entire family's on the plan. However, mom and dad love it. They both want to come over and they want to bring all 3 kids. Your plan never pays more than 3 times. So you're capped. Bring as many family members as you want. That family of 7, you only pay for 3 and the other 4 come for free. So it's capped at 3 max per family.
Okay, all right, wonderful.
Quick question. So you're saying that if we have a 3-member family, you're going to reduce the price to 130 a person?
There you go again.
I'm not saying that.
I was just clarifying.
You can't wheel and deal from the diet.
I laugh. No, I want to say thank you guys so much. You took the time this summer to really, we publicly noticed a meeting. We went over there and we came and saw the clinic model and what it looked like. And our community, specifically here in Brevard County, has been struggling because we had a hospital that has shut down. And, huge shout out to Parrish, huge shout out to Health First, because they've been picking up the slack on that. And that, unfortunately, unintended consequences there is that a lot of our people are having to wait longer, and it's no fault of any of those 2 establishments. But I'm thinking, how can we think of something outside of the box that can help our teachers? We want everyone healthier, and so I was, excited. I teased Mr. Thomas. I said Mr. Thomas was ready to go tell every municipality, everybody, and I'm like, he's practically ready to be your #1 salesman over there, because it was just something very exciting that I think our staff would be really excited to have this here in Brevard. So I appreciate you guys coming over and talking to us today.
If I could jump in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you guys had mentioned that you guys are in Orange County over there. How's the voluntary enrollments going? Can you talk to that? Like, is it flat? What's going on there?
Yeah, we're just past the year mark in our partnership and health centers being open. We're at
About 25%.
25% of folks that have chosen raising their hand. So it's an incredible year 1 adoption. It's approaching 8,000 of their folks. And that we didn't open the door with that. It was quote unquote only 2,000. But our best marketing technique is word of mouth. So those first folks come in, they have an exceptional experience. They tell everyone at their building or at their school, and folks can join. And that's an important part of this, is you don't have to wait till open enrollment. Anytime you feel like this model is right for you, you can raise your hand and say, I would like to have this care model. So it's grown substantially.
We're also, starting, we've contracted and are starting with Palm Beach County Schools. We have 4 health centers opening January 4th. We literally started enrollment period last week on Monday, and we have over 2,000 people already signed up and scheduled to come see us January 4 when we open. So, I think the word of mouth piece is really big and gets things going quickly, so really excited about that.
I have one more question, and this may be an ignorant question. I just don't know how this would work. But say, my husband is military and we have, his insurance, and that's great, but we really love People One. Can a member potentially opt in if they work here at BPS for just the People One part of it and not take our health insurance? Is that a possibility, or do they need to go together?
At the end of the day, the decision of who you cover is your decision. So if you say the eligibility is you have to be on the district's health plan, then that's the eligibility. If you say all you have to do is you have to be connected to through a spouse or whatnot, so whoever you tell us is eligible, we will come in and take care of. So
Okay.
that's totally up to you all.
And
They're paying
it's a
out
good
later.
point, but I think that if we were to open it to do what you're requesting, we would see a reduction in our cost, just because many people would then move to their spouses and then only carry that. You see what I mean?
Maybe, I don't
So
know. Yeah.
there's
Well,
a,
the plan is paying for the membership costs, so the way we have it right now, they'd have to be on a
They'd
plan.
have to be, but it's okay.
but
so
we
you
can
could just-
flip it if we need
right.
to.
I don't know.
Yeah, essentially, the way it works for us is we just, every month, we get an eligibility file from you all, and these are all the members that are eligible for our health insurance that are on it, and that's who has eligibility to our plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see, since you guys have implemented in Orange County, have you seen an uptick or a downtick in the percentage of people that are signing up? So you open, say, I don't know when you did, it's a year later. Are there more people in than the day you started? Or can you talk to that?
Yeah, we started
rate.
out, the first month when we opened up, we had about 856 members, that's not an about, we had 856 members our first month. And we've, every single month have grown there to approaching 8,000. So that word of mouth has continued, and it's
Okay.
nearly 10x, honestly, since that first month.
Okay. And then, out of curiosity, I think the idea here is that we're going to go, that Fleet will carry the RFP or something like that. We'll go out to RFP. But if that RFP ends and you guys, and say you're able to win the RFP, but your build-out takes 6-9 months, there may be a window where we either have to contract with Marathon, if that was the case, to continue, or would you be able to continue with the Marathon Health Centers the way they are until you're built out? You see that window right there? Can you talk to that?
Yeah, so, great question. It's really that latency period. So my only caveat is barring non-competes, right, whatnot. But as long as all parties agree and there weren't non-competes, we'd be able to add in our physicians and take on the existing care teams, and we'd be able to, in essence, continue that level of service through the period of when the old partners stop and then while we're building our health center. So
Okay.
just the only caveat is those non-competes.
So the doors don't have to close. You can continue to keep them open as long as there's not some competes or something in there.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Got it.
If you look at the slide that's up right now, our thought process on that very far left-hand side in the current state, that's for all intents and purposes what you're getting from Marathon today.
Right.
And our kind of concept was if you flip the switch hypothetically tomorrow and said, you guys come in and take those over, it would be those things plus the 2 boxes in the middle
In the
there.
middle,
They would
yeah.
be adding on and, relatively similar price, right, of the way things are working today. And then we'd work towards phase 2 where we get in all the services in that orange box that are additional, right?
And the additional.
And the additional health centers, correct.
Thank you.
I thought, Matt, you were asking the question I was going to ask. Renewals, what would you say the retention rate? I mean, if you've been in a place for more than a year, that the consumers are wanting to re-up.
Yeah, School District of Osceola County is going into its second round of 3 years. Putnam County government has been a partner. Honestly, when we get this care model in place, we put our money at risk. You can see it in year 1, but nobody has stepped away after we've been able to put that in place.
I think you're thinking about individual member.
Oh,
rate.
Individual.
Right.
Yeah, so on an individual member rate, they can opt in or out at any point in time, right? Like if I raise my hand and sign up today, let's just say hypothetically, I go into a People One Health Center, I meet with a doctor, and I have a terrible experience. I can cancel my membership the next month.
So it's like a gym membership.
Yeah, it's just like a gym membership, right? So it's incumbent upon us
Yeah.
to deliver that 94 MPS and make sure people have that experience and they want to keep coming back. And not only that, they tell all their friends and all their coworkers about the experience they're having, right? One quick anecdotal note I'll share is like when you think about the effectiveness of the program, with Putnam County, they just finished a year with us, and we did all the data analytics with them and went back. And what was really interesting is their population between 40 and 70 was their unhealthiest population with the most comorbidities, right? Diabetes, hypertension, obesity, you name it. And we were able to get the largest bolus of those folks in that age range population and turn their health around to where when they started with us, they were looking at an 8% trend expectation in the first year.
Yeah.
So they were paying $14,500 per member. They were looking at going to like 15.6 or 15.8. After the first year, their total population, not just the People One Health folks, we delivered a 2.5% decrease in trend. And the way we're able to do that is we take the people who need care the most, who aren't getting it, and get them that care and get them in and remove all the barriers and help with that long-term preventative care. And so when you do that for people, they don't generally want to leave, right? They want to stick around and they want to keep going with you.
Along those lines, then if you have someone who hasn't, they get started, they're just a healthy person, and after they come in the first time because they had an earache, got their antibiotics, and went home, they don't come back for 11 months, 12 months, 13 months. At what point do they drop off? If it's a voluntary in or out, I mean, because I'm concerned, like, we want to keep paying for services
Sure.
that we're not receiving.
Sure, yeah, and I'll say it this way, and you can chime in here, but we offer performance guarantees, right? And if we have a bunch of people who are 28 years old, healthy, who don't use it, it hurts us, not helps us. Because at the end of the year, when we're looking at claims disintermediation and savings we drive for you, if we have a bunch of people coming in and not using the services, we don't have anything to show savings for, right? So our team, we have a marketing team behind the scenes that their sole function and their sole job is on a monthly basis, communicating with members, explaining what we're doing, teaching them. Because part of this, when somebody joins, you can imagine, there's a relearning of how you acquire healthcare, right? Everything that we have that's in our model, they have to kind of retrain their brains on what they can do and how they can use it. And so there's an education period that we help them with, and then ongoing, we're making sure that they're doing the things that they need to be doing to stay healthy. If somebody's not using the services, we don't have like 6 months, 10 months, 12 months, but we monitor that, and we would eventually send them a note saying, hey, we haven't seen you. You either need to schedule an appointment or come see us, or you're going to be kicked off the plan, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Nice.
That answered it.
Any other questions?
Paul, you got a question? No, it looked like you had one. He's just looking like he had one.
Well, Dr. Rendell, anything?
No, I've actually researched this over time, so
Yeah, we've
good to go.
It was quite a presentation, and, it's good to see groups and people that, there's an issue or a problem, and you're looking for a solution, and it seems like you found a solution. And it's something that's already in practice, and we've definitely done some deep diving, and it's been very difficult to find anything that we would be opposed to. So thank you, and that's a great presentation. If anything else, you guys are good. Dr. Rendell, next.
Nope, thanks, guys.
Appreciate it
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Chair and the rest of the board, the next presentation is on Schools of Hope. And Tara Harris, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, is going to present that information.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Dr. Rendell and Mr. Gibbs. This afternoon, I will be sharing the details of the expansion of the School of Hope process. I'm going to do an overview of the language grounded in state statute, and then I will also be speaking to how this specifically impacts Brevard Public Schools. In your folder, you will have a copy of the presentation with the last page speaking to BPS schools. You also have a copy of the economic opportunity zones that are reside in Brevard. You have an infographic of a timeline for School of Hope. And then your final item in the packet is our fish numbers for BPS. So basically, to orient ourselves, what are Schools of Hope? They are state-approved HOPE operators, and it is designed to attract high-performing, publicly run charter schools to operate in areas with persistently low-performing public schools. Where this expansion speaks to is initially this was grounded around turnaround schools, and the expansion now looks at both in the opportunity zones, but also a 5-mile radius of persistently low-performing schools. The design for this School of Hope language speaks to co-location in traditional public schools. So that is very different than processes that we've had before with charter. So we want to think of the 3 buckets of which a School of Hope can be established. The first bucket would be those schools that are housed in a Florida Opportunity Zone. And so on your presentation, you will see as we get further what schools reside in those opportunity zone. Bucket number 2 speaks to those schools that are within a 5-mile radius of a persistently low-performing school. And then, should the district not have any capacity in those 2 buckets, we would then, by language, open it to all other schools. The change in this language from previous years is that was specifically just for Title I schools. So you see, as we move forward in the presentation, that now we remove, and that 3rd bucket is all schools. So we're going to look specifically at the opportunity zone. So you have a copy of this map, but this lets you know where these regions are in Brevard. So you see we have areas identified in the north, central, and south areas of Brevard. And specifically, the BPS schools are Cocoa High, Cambridge, Saturn, Melbourne High School, and Stone Middle School. You will also see on this slide the capacity available on those campuses. So that second bucket that I was referring to, that speaks to schools that are within 5 miles of persistently low-performing schools. So the state identifies the criteria of persistently low-performing schools. On the left side, you will see those schools that the state has identified, being Apollo, Cambridge, Endeavor, Gulfview, Fairglen, Saturn, University Park, and Dr. W.J. Creel. So when you look at the schools in Brevard that reside within those 5 miles, we have a total of 62 schools.
Ms. Harris, can I just ask one question?
Yes.
How does the state define what is a persistently low-performing school? How are they deeming that?
So that is a great question. In the past, it spoke to school grade. And so it looked, after 3 years, it's been everything up to 5 years, how many years they had a C or potentially 1D. Where this has now changed and why you see additional numbers of schools on this list compared to previous years in Brevard is it now looks at if you're in the lowest 10% of 3rd grade reading and 4th grade math.
Thank you.
And so that is why we have additional schools that have come on that left side of the list. To see specifically the elementary and secondary schools that fall within this 5 miles, you will see that list on the last page of your packet. So now we're going to talk about the process. And again, this is grounded in statute. And then at the end of this presentation, I will share specific to Brevard where we are in this process. But as of November 11th, Hope operators could submit a notice of intent. And so then the district has 20 days from that notice of intent to either object or come to an agreement on co-location opportunities. So we received 4 on Tuesday, and we have objected to all 4, and we'll go into that further. So here's what the district responsibilities are within this. The whole window of time is a total of 60 days. And in that 60 days, it is important that the district have a process to meet that 60 days, or else the penalty is all charter fees would be reduced to only 1%. And so the district would only be able to charge charters that 1% in administrative fees. And so it's very important that we build a process to keep us within this 60 days. In the first 30 days after we have finalized the location, we must agree to a shared facility plan. So again, at the end, I'll address what that looks like here at BPS, but just to have a framework of what that timeline looks like. We would have 30 days after we commit to a location to then design a shared facility plan that would be renewable annually. So once we receive a notice of intent, we have 5 calendar days of which we have to schedule or provide access before or after school to the campus for the Hope operator that has submitted the notice of intent. Things to remember are with co-location, the shared spaces would have to be shared proportionately. And so this would be not only a co-location of classroom space, but thinking around cafeteria, gym, playground, all of those areas would have to be proportionately shared. And then finally, at the end of the school year, prior to the opening of this co-location, the district would have 7 days of which, from the last day of school, where we would have to provide the Hope operator access to go ahead and get started with the transition. It is important that we remember the district would be responsible to maintain the space and the overhead of such space. I know I'm going into a lot of details, but I just want everyone to be clear of what this looks like from a district standpoint. So this would include custodial services, maintenance to the building, school safety, food services, nursing services, and transportation for all of the days that the School of Hope would be open. We would also have to work with our Educational Technology Department on providing access for enrollment and accountability. We would be responsible for monitoring financial reports quarterly. And then finally, unless the Hope operator is designed as an LEA, we would be monitoring enrollment, and that would contribute to the district's report of enrollment. So important findings in the statute are that these Hope operators are, they are exempt from our school board policies. And so that's where that shared facility plan, as well as that performance agreement would become very important, because we would be negotiating with people that don't necessarily have to comply with school board policy. Things to note that they would have to follow is they would be involved in our same state assessment, as well as our school grading, our graduation, our student progression plan, so they would be held to that same level of standard. So how does a operator get approved by the state? Basically, an overview is they have to have proven evidence of high-impact outcomes for students with a population that is 70% or higher free and reduced. So you will see on this next slide that there are 7 operators currently approved. So these are the 7 and which could apply with a notice of intent for co-location. Items that, as we move forward, that we would just need to discuss and consider are things that are specific to Brevard. So when we talk about open gate, school access, what would that look like? What would network accessing look like? Discipline between the 2 schools that may be on one campus, arrival and dismissal, and most importantly, capacity that is today. If the capacity were to increase at the BPS traditional site, what would that look like moving forward for that co-location plan? So when we speak to Brevard where we are today, on November 11th, we received 4 school notice of intent from Mater, being the approved School of Hope operator. We have contacted them to schedule tours. We have not yet heard back from them on any of the tours, but we had to meet that 5-day timeline, which would have ended last Saturday. So I did reach out to them. We have still not heard back. At this point, we are at a standstill with them because we've not heard back to our objection. But we were able to object all 4, specifically due to 2 of the schools not being in a bucket 1 or 2. So when we're thinking of bucket 1, opportunity zone, we had Cape View and Roosevelt that are not in the opportunity zone, and they are also not within 5 miles of a persistently low performing school. The other 2 schools were Palm Bay High School and Oak Park, that both are within that 5-mile radius. And so we have been able to object all 4 of those. What we also have planned is in the first week of December, we will be bringing together a Brevard Public Schools task force around this, because should we get a notice of intent of which we are not able to object, we need to have that shared agreement in a timely fashion. So we're going to be looking at what would that look like if we were to co-locate, so that we can have a template of which to work from. Should a school have to move forward with co-location, then we would refine it specific to that campus. Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
You had mentioned that the original 20 days, we had to respond 20 days from their data submission, and if we didn't, there was going to be the fees, administrative fees would be dropped down to 1%. What would happen, the next benchmark is the 60 days for negotiating into a performance-based agreement. What would happen if we didn't meet that 60-day agreement?
So the fees only get reduced after the 60-day window.
Okay. The next benchmark after that's 30 days for the shared facility plan. What would happen if we didn't meet the 30-day facility plan?
We would be in violation of state statute, just not meeting the timeline.
Would we just be in violation with those, nothing to do with
The
the
whole
fees?
package has to be completed by the 60 days, so we have not received any indicators. Mr. Gibbs, I don't know if you have anything to add of if we weren't to meet the benchmarks along the way.
No, yeah, it has to be done within 60 days. I think it's not 90 days. It's like the first, you got the 20-day timeline to respond, and then you got 60 days from that to be done. So the first 30 days of that 60 days is the first part, and then you have to have your final done within the last 30 days.
There's nothing to articulate what the penalty would be if for some reason we didn't meet that.
The 60 days is everybody drops to 1%. And then as soon as you get your agreements in, you go back to your regular, whatever
So
your fees are.
sorry to monopolize the time, but what would prevent School of Hope from purposely extending the negotiation process to take us over the limit, so we have to pay, or so the fees do go down to 1%?
Where I believe, after that 20 days, if we were not to respond in the 20 days after a notice of intent, my understanding is that we would be agreeing to the co-location, like we would be agreeing to that school. After the 20 days, if we were not, and then that 20 days is part of the 60 days, so it's not an additional window that opens again. But within that 20 days, one of the penalties that I would see is if we don't respond within the 20 days, we're agreeing to.
But we can
co-locate.
respond, but if we were trying to negotiate an agreement, if we don't come to an agreement within that 60 days, then the fees automatically drop to the 1%.
There's a special magistrate process for failure to reach an agreement. So if we don't reach an agreement, we can go through it's appointed by the Commissioner of Education, and then that special magistrate is going to make a recommendation to the commissioner, who is then going to make a recommendation to the state board, and they're going to impose terms on us. Just like if you guys have a dispute, it comes to you with your bargaining agent. So.
Okay, thank you.
I think I just want to clarify from what Mr. Thomas asked, because the language on the, whatever slide this is, slide 8 said the 60 days to enter into a performance-based agreement, but then it says 30 days to agree on a shared facility plan. Those are two different things, correct?
Correct. So the 30 days would be the shared facility agreement.
Does that have to
And-
happen within the 60?
Correct.
Okay. So, question, it's my understanding from what I've heard across the state that some of these companies just sent out masses of letters, even had the wrong county on some schools and things like that, because they were trying to be first in line, because it's first come, first served, right? If they don't continue, if we don't hear back from them within 20 days, then is it just dropped and they have to get back in line?
Yes, my understanding is, and again, all the districts were talking to each other because this is new for everyone, but our understanding is because we received some mass notice of intent, that we object, and at this point, it's kind of dead
Right, okay.
until something resurfaces.
Okay.
Something else too, just for your information, we also did receive requests from companies that are not state-approved HOPE operators. And so we were able to send them written notification of, you are not a state-approved HOPE operator, and so we objected to their request based on that.
Okay. So on that same slide, the bottom, it says that the shared facility plan is renewable annually. So can I assume, and it's hard to make assumptions on this one because it's brand new and because it's, by the way, I haven't met a single person in any party except for, unless you're an academy, a company, operator, who's excited about this, and lots of problems potentially that we're going to have to hammer out. So I've got a question about that at the end too. If it says renewable annually, does that give us flexibility? So if we have a school that's in a high-growth area, new neighborhoods build up, and we get to the point where we need more of our capacity back, where we can come to them annually and say, you know what, now we don't meet the qualifications for it anymore, and we really need the space back. Sorry, but you either have to cut down to 50 kids, or we have to not renew our contract. Are we able to do that you know of?
Here's my understanding, and again, I'm looking at Mr. Gibbs for guidance here, but my understanding is very much that we want to be as detailed as possible in that shared agreement and in the performance agreement and that's why we're creating this task force, is
Right.
because we want to protect the interests of Brevard Public Schools. And in doing that, we want to write language that says, you know, if we have 30% capacity and that's what you're asking, we have building, or if there were to be growth, we would be modifying that. But Mr. Gibbs, I will defer to you.
Yeah, that's right now, that's how we're reading the statute. That's not to say, out of this next legislative session, they don't say whatever capacity a School of Hope gets, they keep,
Right,
and then we're just stuck having to eat the cost.
right.
That's a
That annual
possibility too.
renewal is-
Right, yeah, like next year, if we're at 80% this year, but a new neighborhood or two opens up in Palm Bay, and now that school's at 110, we need those classrooms back. We should be able to cancel that School of Hope and say, sorry, we're at 110.
Okay.
Next school year, you have to be out, and we're gonna, because we need the space for our schools.
And the next question really is probably something that if you guys haven't already thought of, we put this on the list. On slide 10, you mentioned that we have to provide all the services, custodial, maintenance, safety, food, all that stuff, on all days the School of Hope is open. If they do not adopt our same calendar, if they decide to be a year-round or whatever, then are we bringing our cafeteria staff, nursing staff, all of that in on days that the BPS students may not be attending?
And
That's your
yes.
contract. Yeah, your contract with them is going to be critical to delineate. You are agreeing to operate with
Within
an
our
hour
calendar.
adopted calendar
ask
for that
that.
school, yeah.
Okay.
And you
Then-
can imagine, just from an expense standpoint, if we weren't able to, the reason that we have to negotiate that is we could, if they go to total different school hours or school days, there's a heavy expense to the district for this.
Right.
And I just want to, that last page of the presentation, that identifies those schools with their capacity that are within that 5 miles, so that we have that at the forefront as we move forward.
The final thing I have is because of, there's so many, this is so problematic, so many details that aren't clarified, and we need clarification. And because of the way the legislature usually operates, which is pull the trigger and then aim, what would be some helpful things, and if you don't want to answer today, if you want to send it to us later, we are with FSBA and everything, just working on legislative asks. What are some of the things that we need to ask our legislators this session to clarify, so that when we walk through this process, we could potentially have to have all these agreements signed before they even get to session. But what are some of the things that we need to ask them, hey, you need to clarify this with this legislation, because these are the walls we're coming, and I'm sure we'll come up with more through the process. But if you have some ideas, we'll take them.
I absolutely think that we need to push for clarity around what happens in areas of growth, because Brevard is, you drive by and there might be a new neighborhood popping up that you didn't know about, and that is in the north, central, and south. And so as we move forward, we need clarity on that to protect the interests of Brevard, schools, is to ensure what happens because with one of the objections, if they were to counter, I don't have anything else under the language of material impracticability that we would have a reason to continue to object. And so I feel like we need to be advocating for protections that if we have to go into a co-location agreement, how do we protect ourselves for our own buildings should we have growth in that area and need to regain back capacity on that school?
Okay. And then one of the things I asked you when you met with us individually that I don't think we had clarity around was, I'm assuming that under current state law with charter language that we would be sharing millage proportionally like we do with our other charter schools, but I don't think we had clarification on the sales surtax, since the schools of hope, the co-locating schools of hope don't necessarily have capital expenditures unless they're buying computers, everything else they're not using. So do we have to share our sales surtax dollars if we're the ones who were taking on all the capital expenditures?
I am going to have to get with Ms. Hand, because my assumption would be, because we're responsible for all overhead. However, since some of that surtax can be used for technology devices, we might need to get clarity on that piece. So perhaps it's a reduced portion, not based on just the same that we are doing with our charters.
Okay. Thank you. But that would be something that maybe we can get clarification from the legislature too.
A lot of clarification.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh, don't do it.
You asked. Here she is.
Don't do it.
So in the Florida Administrative Code, it talks about the district would receive the capital outlay full-time equivalent of the School of Hope operators' enrollment. That's the basis on which the charter share is calculated, which the district's piece of the surtax is calculated, so we would get their COFD. And so we would basically get their share of sales tax, is my understanding of how the Florida Administrative Code is worded relative to that particular point. The capital piece is a little more squishy.
Okay. That word.
Sorry.
Squishy. We don't like squishy.
I would also just have conversation at your level of, School of Hope was originally designed as an option for families if there is an underperforming school site. And we have welcomed that opportunity to partner with others, through turnaround and things like that. This expansion goes beyond the intent of the initial efforts of School of Hope.
Exactly. Ms. Wright?
A couple things. All right. I'm just going to go on the record right now and say there is nothing about this that I like at all. Okay, so I want everyone to know that because everyone's going, oh, this is some kind of a political movement this way or that. No, absolutely do not like this at all because everything is so gray. It is as clear as mud. One of the things that I'm looking at or we're seeing is that they are looking at our FISH report. The acronym of FISH, don't ask me because I don't know right now. Everything is acronyms. But that report board has to be ironclad. We need to make sure that that thing is tightened up as far as what we have for availability. So that was one of the things that we were looking at as well. Can I ask you, have you reached out to other districts to see for schools that they have that are utilizing 95% of their building? Are they receiving letters of intent from a potential School of Hope? Or does this seem to be something that is targeted more towards underutilized buildings?
In what we have received, and I think this was replicated in many districts, some of these were just batch letters going out.
Okay.
So there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason.
Okay.
In fact, one of the requests we got, all of the addresses were not even accurate. So I believe that it's just batch, and they're not even looking specifically at capacity, or in some cases, they're looking, there's greater capacity in some of our other sites. And so I don't think there's rhyme or reason, and I think that's replicated across the state.
Well, and I think there's another issue that exists with this is that FISH report is done in December, turned in January, but our enrollment numbers aren't coming until school starts, which, we're in the summertime. So if those two reports aligned at the same time, then maybe this would make a little more sense. We could have more accurate data, but we could potentially give a report in December, and then a new subdivision pops up with 400 homes, and now those numbers are not correct anymore, and it's not going to catch up until the following year. So that's problematic.
And we have an example of that with the Oak Park request.
Right.
So they asked for a certain number of seats, and we've had growth of 19 students on that campus. And so we were able to object based on the number that they asked for because we've had some growth there. I would imagine because, they're run as a business, that they're also looking at, there may be capacity in a school, but are there students to draw into that school? And so that's something too that I would imagine just from a business model, they need students to fill their seats.
Right. Right. Well, there seems to be more work that needs to be done with this, but again, just want to, on the record, I'm not a fan. I think that this needs to be cleared up from a legislative standpoint. I don't feel that it is fair to put the burden on the district to have to take on these additional expenses that we're going to incur. There's no way that we're not going to incur that. And the data has to align to when our enrollment is versus when we're submitting our report to the state on how many seats we have available in certain classes. And right now, they're too far apart, over a half of a year difference. So I don't like it. Just want to say that on the record.
Yes. One more clarifying thing, and you shared with us in our one-on-one time, and that is that the legislation says that they can't open, it's a year, right, from when they send their letter of intent. So you shared with us that your guess, your best educated guess would be, since they couldn't turn in the letter till November 11th, that they wouldn't be able to open until the next November 11th. So the likelihood of anyone opening would be, the earliest would be fall of 2027, most likely.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And any notice of intent has to be 1 year notice and less than 2. So at least 1 year and less than 2. But that is where I would still be living, that if they submitted in November, the earliest they could open is the following, and typically we don't open schools in November.
Okay. And nothing would prohibit us from making changes in between now and then that would change enrollment at any given school?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And they need to clear up calendar days versus business days, because I'm willing to bet our legislation is not working during Christmas or Thanksgiving or
Yeah.
any of that. But I guess the anticipation here for us is that we should be there and stop Thanksgiving dinner and go give a tour to a potential school. of
Special
hope.
call.
Yes,
Lovely.
should we have an agreement, we would need to come together, yes.
Yes. Mr. Thomas, anything? Mr. Susan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think where I have an issue with it is that from the security aspects and some of the other issues, I mean, you can't have two schools going on and keep that campus safe. Not saying that the operators that are here are bad people or anything, but it's very difficult to try to coordinate that. Try to coordinate custodial services so that you're actually increasing possibly half of another school. You have to get more custodians. Who's over the charge of those custodians that are going to be, are they under a different, set of guidelines? I mean, I think that the legislature had the idea that they were trying to fix the fact that there are a lot of schools throughout the state of Florida that need to be filled and stuff like that are sitting there. I just think that they overextended, and I think that there's some issues here. So I want to say thank you to everybody. And Ms. Campbell, I agree with you. Some sort of a document that we can carry with us would be real good, and we could collaborate with them at the state and our other school boards and come up with a good one. So thank you. And Ms. Harris, thank you for giving that great
Yes.
in-depth conversation and presentation, because I know that this has been kind of a, figure it out as we go, as it starts happening, so thank you.
We like to
Appreciate
build the airplane while we're flying it.
it. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
We've got the best team to do it if we have to.
Oh, look, here it is
Well-
right here. Florida Inventory of Schoolhouses is what
Right.
FISH stands for, so sorry.
Fish-ish. So I'll just add, we had some good points up here. Obviously, I don't see many of us saying that this is a good thing at all. So thank you for clearing that up. I mean, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that's being put out there, and I believe you cleared that up. Mr. Susan, you said the same thing. That was my concern. We could potentially have two organizations on one campus following two different sets of school policies, which could pose all sorts of problems and concerns. So, which would be security and just, how do you run two organizations that don't abide by the same sets of rules, which is an issue. Definitely some unintended consequences to probably a good, problem to tackle early on, and this is what happens when people make policy that are not involved in that institution, and this is just another example of it. I have a feeling there'll be more to come on this, and I would hope to say maybe, look back in a year or so and say this was much that knew about nothing. That would be wonderful, and I think it might be, but I know it's kept you up at night. I can, in our one-on-ones, we had some really good conversation on that, because, potentially it could really disturb a situation, and if I were out there in the community and I just saw little bits and pieces thrown out there, that would really cause some concerns and questions.
Yes.
But, I'll certainly, point people to this presentation and the conversations that we've had that, I don't believe many of us here are in support of splitting our campus with any other organization, and certainly not at this point. So thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Rendell?
Just want to point out that there's been a team working on this. Ms. Harris, of course, but also Dr. Mayer. Mr. Gibbs has spent an inordinate amount of time researching the legislation. This is something that numerous school districts across the state are dealing with. So we've been sharing information together. There was a conference call with superintendents last week, and we're a choice district. We have great relationships with the charter schools that we have in operation here in Brevard County, so it's not an anti-choice argument, but this co-location model does not seem well thought out, and it does not seem like something we would embrace. So, we've been able to object to the 4 legitimate requests that we've had so far, and we'll just keep the board updated as we go forward.
All right, thank you. Thanks again, Ms. Harris.
Yes.
Dr. Rendell?
If the board is ready for the next presentation, Sue Hand, who was up at the microphone a few minutes ago, is now back, and she's got two different presentations. The first is to share the sales surtax draft renewal plan.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. This is going to be a relatively short presentation. I just wanted to give the board kind of an update as to our progress in actually putting some projects to the planning process for our sales surtax program. And so when we last met in October, I had reported that we met with our Citizens Oversight Committee for the sales surtax. They had recommended going to a 5-year project-specific program, and then each year thereafter, we would build the potential like 6th year of the program. From a staff perspective, we liked that idea, presented that to the board. Your reaction was to work through that and see what we could do with that, and so we did. You have a draft facilities plan that is project-specific, so I wanted to just kind of show you what the outcome is. We also talked a little bit about our technology planning process, and our ET team has built a 10-year plan, and then they had morphed that into a 5-year plan based on what we called option 2 back in October that included both structured cabling projects and modern classrooms. So we're kind of doing a dual approach of building the technology infrastructure in our school buildings as well as adapting them to modern classrooms. But keep in mind, this is going to be kind of an evolutionary process. This is a starting point. And as we go forward in the next few months, I'll be looking at the revenues again. Mr. Thomas, you had asked me to go meet with Ms. Weatherman. I've done that. She was basically, said our philosophy about anticipated revenue seemed to be sound in light of the economic forecasts in Brevard County. We've looked at some state-level data. I think we're pretty much on target, although the October sales tax revenue was a little bit lower than the October 2024 revenue. So I want to, kind of keep an eye on our revenue trends and just make sure that we're not overestimating. I was a little bit more liberal.
Government shutdown.
Yeah, that's true. A little bit more liberal in terms of assigning projects to revenue. So I'm looking at between 40 and 45 million per year in facility renewal projects. I wanted to make sure that we did as much as we could, but recognizing if we start to see different trends in revenue, that I'll probably come back to you and narrow down our recommendations. We're still working on security. We thought we'd get through our facility renewal and technology projects. There are security projects that kind of integrate with both of those other categories, so we thought we'd get our stuff squared away, and then we'll come back to you in a shade session on the specifics relative to security. So the aggregate of the plan that you have before you shows the allocation of facility renewal resources over a 5-year period. So again, this is a little over $40 million per year. Very heavy in roof renewal. That's one of the things that we've been working towards in this surtax plan and believe that we need to continue that work. These are expensive projects. And if you look at the allocation by school, some of our schools have some pretty healthy allocations. Typically, those are related to roof projects. We're also continuing our investment in air conditioning. That has been very impactful for us in terms of both preserving the quality of our learning environment as well as being able to shift towards a more preventative maintenance approach. So we want to continue to invest in our air conditioning systems. And then classroom renewal, that's another area that we've started in this surtax program, in the 2020 program. We've got a lot of work still to do, and so we continue that investment. Something new is the door and window renewal. That is really securing our and securing is the wrong word, tightening our building envelope. So as we're doing our roof projects, we also want to tighten our windows and doors. This is an area where we'll be coordinating and collaborating with our security folks to make sure that we do things once. And think that this is another good and impactful investment of our facility renewal resources for surtax. Athletic facilities, I was able to put in a handful of turf projects, so we're going to start to work through those sequentially based on need, collaborated with our county athletic director to prioritize those, so you'll see a handful of athletic turf conversion projects in the program. We have fire protection renewal, and that is fire alarm renewal. We've started those projects from the 2014, 2020, and then the 2026 program. And then generally, I want to continue investment in paint, electrical, plumbing, kind of our typical projects as they come up, and a somewhat a small investment in playground renewal. Interestingly, we've done very well in refreshing and renewing our playgrounds. So we have very few that are on that, oh my gosh, we're going to condemn them scenario that we have had in the past. So the reason this number is small is because we've done a pretty good job bringing our playgrounds up to speed. Our EH&S team has been working to standardize playgrounds, so we want to go to our composite structures. They have a longer life. So as we're transitioning our playgrounds, we're working with our schools to look at the composite structures versus the metal structures that degrade more quickly, despite what we've been told by the manufacturers of said playgrounds. So we also did some work around fall surface, and you've seen in your capital plan every year for the last couple of years, we're looking at transitioning to the rubberized tile. But we bought some equipment and did some testing and found that the fall surface protection is about the same for rubberized tile as it is for engineered wood fiber, engineered wood mulch. And so the initial thought was this would be a safer product, but it's just about the same. It's more expensive. It provides really great ADA accessibility. And so we're talking with schools and giving them some choices as to whether we use the engineered wood fiber or whether we use the rubberized tile. So we're going to continue that project, but not at the rate that we had in the past. We're thinking that we could slow that down and be a little bit more thoughtful about it with our schools and responsive to the needs on their campuses. So all in all, this is the distribution for the 5-year facility renewal program, and then we'll be coming back with an ICOC process where we would come to the ICOC every year to add that next year and then bring that back to the board.
Sue, can I just interject real fast
Sure.
when we come to, I'm glad you mentioned the ADA compliant part of it. I have actually been to school sites before when the mulch is down and there's a child with a wheelchair that can't access a playground, and that is absolutely heartbreaking to witness. So I'm glad we're looking at moving towards that model. Some of the composite material that's out there, we all live in Florida, we know how brutal the sun is. Has there been any research on what does it look like if we were to cover the playgrounds to some degree, whether it's through sunshades or something comparable, that would it extend the life of the playground, and it might be worth that investment to look at?
That's a great question.
Okay.
And we have not, to my knowledge, but it's a great question. So
Okay, just
we'll
something
take
to
a
be
look.
thinking
Yeah,
about,
thank
because it
you.
might extend the life of that playground and then also provide some shade for our kiddos whenever it's,
Yep.
100 degrees and the sun's blazing out there. So just something to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
thank
know
you.
what, Ms. Wright, to add on that, some of us have PTSD from that really shiny silver ladder or slide.
slide that burns you.
Was in the heat all day, so please look at that. We are. That's why we're here and
Look at
talking.
us, we survived.
So, thank you, Ms. Wright, for bringing that up.
Oh, thanks. Great question, and we'll take a look at that. The idea that I floated when I talked in October was that we would have sort of a candidate list of projects. So if our revenues were healthier, our interest has been something that has been pretty healthy over the past 2 programs. I've not programmed any interest resources. So these are some things that potentially would be added to the list if we have the resources available through the ICOC process. And these are things like, we talked about an auditorium master plan. We're taking a look at trying to put that together. Parking, stormwater, don't have any of those projects in the surtax plan. We've been handling those with capital. Several of the components of the strategic facilities plan that I'll talk about next, we could potentially supplement those projects. So if you have a new build or a rebuild or a conversion or something like that, if we have surtax available, we may be able to implement those projects faster or implement those projects with less or no financing. So we wanted to at least set the stage for potentially using those resources if they're available. New transportation facility, we've acknowledged the need to do that, and we'll be working through how we do that with our capital and surtax resources. And then literally, I can spend all of this on basic building infrastructure, so those projects, as we have with the 2020 program, will likely be bringing some additional projects into the program. And then things like athletic facilities or pavilion renewals. So we still have some schools that don't have any pavilions. So this is kind of just the initial candidate list to give you a sense of, if we had more resources, these are the things that we would potentially look at as a framework for bringing more projects into the program, or as we look through the years 6 to 10 of the sales surtax program. And then I think, next steps. So wanted to just get your feedback on anything that we've provided today. But coming up next is we'll be giving this information to our Citizens Oversight Committee in December, so they'll see the specific plan details. I would intend to kind of try to finalize this in the February-March timeframe so that we have a final document at that point. And so you'll see this a couple times. If we have any significant changes, I'll bring those back to you. So I think that concludes this presentation. So happy to take any feedback or questions.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just quickly, on the $25 million that you have for athletic renewal, I'm just curious, how many athletic football fields are you projecting to turf?
We have 2 major pool renovations, and I believe there's 6 turf conversions in the 5-year program. And then there's, the other focus area for that was the hard courts at the elementary schools. We have a lot of elementary schools, their hard courts are in bad shape. And so we've been doing that with capital, but they've been, $300,000 a piece. So I wanted to supplement that with surtax and start to accelerate that so we can upgrade our elementary school hard courts. Those were the big pieces of the athletic field allocation.
That's great.
Thank you for all of this, and thank you for this large document. I like digital copies, so send us digital copies when you get a chance. This is very helpful. I just wanted to say thank you for adding under the systems. The one thing that's different for our view is the level of critical need, if it's currently a critical need, or potentially all the rating scale that you guys are using, 1s, 2s, and 3s. So thank you for adding that on there, because that helps us to see where we are and how you guys are scheduling them, the priorities. Because everybody always thinks their priority is everybody's priority, and it doesn't always work that way. But I appreciate that you guys have been deliberately going through conscientiously, like just keeping track of our facilities from north to south and east to west. So that is very helpful information.
Thank you.
This also makes us, literally when someone's like, hey, I have an issue and I don't believe the district's thinking of us. This tells us, they are thinking, trust me, you're on the list somewhere. Sue has not missed an opportunity to put you on a list somewhere for something to get done. So we appreciate the detail.
Thanks.
And, hopefully you get some rest in between all this and planning. But again, we've had good conversations on what we have planned in the future, and it's great. So thank you so much. I know there was a time not too far in the past where you had a lot of wishes and not a lot of money. And now you have a little bit of this, and you're making good use of it, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Wright, anything?
No,
All right,
thank
well,
you. I appreciate, honestly, you think about maintaining just one household, and you think about all of the schools that you have to maintain, and you do an exceptional job, and it's always great to, hear in the community, no one ever says anything bad about Sue. Sue is one of the most loved and admired people that we have on staff here, and we have a lot of those folks, but I always hear great things about how wonderful you are, so thank you for the hard work you put in. You are appreciated.
Thanks.
Well, just the number, the millions of square feet under roof. Dr. Rendell, do you have that off the top of your head? You've said that before.
12.9 million, I believe, about 13 million square
13
feet
million
of building
square feet
space.
under roof.
Thanks.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. I have a really awesome team, and this was built on a lot of work by a lot of people who've done, in the field, checking things, getting conditions. So if it tells you it's a critical need, it is a critical need because somebody's put eyes on it, and our team's done a really good job. So we have good data. You're looking at the 5-year recommendation for implementation, but there's a whole big pile of data underneath all of this that we will use for capital planning, planning future years. So it's really good data to have, and our folks have done a really good job being out in the field and compiling all of it. So thanks.
That's great. That's good news. Dr. Rendell, I think we're good with this one.
Yeah, we have one more presentation. We can take a break now. Is that,
Well, the presentation's with Sue.
yeah,
and
she's
is-
ready to go, so.
Okay,
All right.
let's
We'll
go.
do it after. All right.
All right, so Sue's going to switch hats and deliver another presentation.
Okay, so the other topic is to just give the board an update on our attendance boundary change process. And so I wanted to give you there are two proposals for boundary changes. One is a relatively minor change. There's an area on south of Sarno Road on east and west side of Wickham, basically the Fountainhead neighborhood, that currently attends Central Middle School. Those students are closer to Johnson, and so we were looking at potentially rezoning that area for middle school from Central to Johnson. The other one is the consolidation of Cape View Elementary into Roosevelt Elementary, and so I'll be talking a little bit about both of them. This is a map that shows the Central to Johnson area, just so everybody knows where we're talking. It's, again, relatively small area. Our principals at Roy Allen and Central did reach out to families. We've only received 6 comments as of a day or so ago, and so we've asked them to reach out again this week and just see if we can get a little bit more feedback, just to make sure that we're touching base with the affected families. And so this is on your information agenda tonight, just to basically give you an update that it is on the information agenda, and it is part of the intended process that we use for all of our boundary changes that will have the board scheduling the public hearing. The action to schedule the public hearing will be in December. The public hearing will be in January to implement this boundary change. The similar process for Cape View to Roosevelt, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail today because there's been some questions about process, and so I want to talk through all the various pieces of the process that interrelate to one another. But again, this has got the same boundary process that we use typically, where the board will act on scheduling the public hearing in December and then actually have the public hearing in January. So there are a lot of overlapping processes that are sort of intersecting in this discussion around Cape View and Roosevelt. So the attendance boundary change is kind of the framework for we are moving Cape View students from Cape View to Roosevelt. So that's the attendance boundary change piece. The strategic facilities plan, we started work on that back in 2024 that identified this as one of the things that we should be thinking about. So those processes kind of overlapped. Now, when we're talking about consolidation closures, we also get involved in some other processes, and that includes the 5-year work program, which is a Florida Department of Education process that the board annually sees a work program, but that process is time dependent on Florida DOE taking some actions. There's an interlocal agreement that is around intergovernmental coordination based on Florida Statute 163, that's the intergovernmental coordination statute, as well as school district educational facility statutes. And so we have an agreement with all of the cities in the county that define a lot of things that we do together. School work, closures and boundary changes, those are part of that work. The Capital Outlay Committee is an intergovernmental coordination committee that is a construct that was identified in the interlocal agreement. So these things are all kind of together, and it's really confusing to try to figure out which of these is governing what we're doing at any given time. So I wanted to take just a few minutes today and kind of walk through each of these processes so everybody's clear which framework we're working on and what things are happening under which of these items. So starting with the strategic facilities plan, the board and the Capital Outlay Committee have seen a lot of this. So we launched the process in 2024. WXY was the board's planning consultant. They did some other work for the board. This is one of the projects. We developed a scope and put that to the board as well as the Capital Outlay Committee that we want to do a strategic facilities plan, look at where we have underutilized, overutilized facilities, older facilities, all of that. was in the scope, and that was done back in mid-2024. We've been giving the Capital Outlay Committee updates on that process as part of our normal quarterly meetings with them. We included the COC as one of the initial small group stakeholder interviews that WXY conducted early on in that process. And then WXY and the district staff presented a baseline report in December of 2024. So one of the key components of that baseline condition report identified a couple things. We have several schools that are underutilized, like dramatically underutilized, and we had some schools that were overutilized as well. So there were strategies around dealing with each of those scenarios. But where we are today in the Cape Few Roosevelt scenario is relating to the underutilized schools. And so that was one of the strategies that came out of the WXY work. So they identified some challenges, underutilized facilities. We have aging neighborhoods and changing demographics. So the number of school-aged children in some of our neighborhoods that were highly populated with kids years ago that's not the case anymore. And we're seeing that in several pockets around the district. So that shifts the demand for schools. We have a 70-mile-long county that is really hard to wrangle. Many of our other peer districts are more square, rectangular, and so they're more compact, and they have much more efficient use of their school space. Our use of school space is inefficient in many cases because we're so spread out. And then you all know I've talked about our aging facilities. We have more than 50 schools that are over 50 years old, so that's part of our problem too. So as we work through our strategic facilities plan, we came to the board and the Capital Outlay Committee numerous times, just kind of giving everybody an update as to what is going on in the plan, what we're looking at, and what we want to bring forward. And so you can see we've been in front of the board and the Capital Outlay Committee several times over the last several months. And that led to, in September, some boundary change recommendations, including the Cape Few to Roosevelt boundary change. But I do want to just highlight the last bullet, because there were a lot of recommendations in that plan, and you might ask, well, why aren't we doing all of them? And back in, I think it was September when I talked about this, like we have a limited ability to implement lots of things all at once. So we wanted to take our most strategic initiatives and start on those first. And so that's how we got to the place today where we're talking about Cape Few and Roosevelt as one of the strategic initiatives that came out of this planning work. There are others, and there will be more work, but we couldn't take them on all at once. So I did want to just clarify, our limitations in terms of staff and producing big projects like this that require a lot of staff time, a lot of community engagement, and a lot of just interaction and intergovernmental coordination. So the next piece is the interlocal agreement for public school facility planning and school concurrency. And I put the title in there because it's important. School concurrency is where the requirement to have a place for a student to go when a new development comes in is in statute, and it's in our interlocal, and it is essential that we work together with our local governments. So whenever there's a new development proposal, they have to come through the school district, and they say, we're going to build X number of units. Karen Black looks at our facilities and says, you have capacity at this school or you don't. And the way our agreement is constructed is if you don't have capacity in this school, you look at the adjacent school. And if you don't have capacity there, then we tell the local government in which the development is located, you don't have school concurrency. And that has just recently started to happen in the Palm Bay area. And we are now moving into mitigation and some of the things that we haven't had to do before because we have school concurrency issues. This is basically something that comes out of Florida statutes that requires intergovernmental coordination on concurrency for schools, and it's required for other infrastructure, things like roads and water, sewer, utilities, all of that. So we are just a piece of the infrastructure that supports new development. And so this interlocal agreement defines how we relate to each other on a lot of things. That includes school concurrency. So everyone is included in this agreement except for Melbourne Village and Palm Shores. They are exempt because they're so small. Sure. Sure. So mitigation can be many things. It can be land. It can be build a school. It can be we are providing a charter school. It can be cash. So anything that is a proportionate share contribution that will lead to providing student stations to support the development activity. And so we do a calculation that says, for example, we have capacity for 100 students and your development is generating 200 students. So you have to pay for that differential cost of providing the 100 student stations. It's complicated, it's messy. The statutes have changed recently to require that we take into account charter capacity. And so we just recently did a very long exercise with the Capital Outlay Committee to talk about how we do that. And that was a big function of the Capital Outlay Committee recently, to change the way that we do that, to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because our cities have to administer school concurrency. They're the ones that have the land development regulations. We have no authority on land development regulations. We just say you do or you do not have school capacity. We have representatives on local planning agencies. You see that on your agenda occasionally, where we have an appointment of a representative from the school district to the local planning agency, typically a non-voting member, but that's all part of this intergovernmental coordination activities that are defined in this interlocal agreement. So this is just a lot of words that came out of the interlocal agreement. I put it in the presentation so you had a record of all the things that we do in intergovernmental coordination, and it's quite a bit. School concurrency talks about the 5-year work program. This, again, is a lot of words that come directly from the interlocal agreement, but I wanted you to have it so you had the reference to who is responsible for what, and what's the framework in the interlocal agreement for intergovernmental coordination. So there's been some discussion around the Capital Outlay Committee. As I said, it includes the school district, includes Brevard County government, as well as 14 cities. And they do all sorts of things. They have a quarterly meeting. The interlocal agreement requires a semi-annual meeting. We meet quarterly just because it's good practice, and we have a lot going on both on their side of the house and on our side of the house. So we want to talk to one another, and we want to make sure that we're coordinating and they know what's going on. So they've been a partner with us as we've gone through this strategic facilities planning exercise, as well as when we do the 5-year work program update every year. So, the 5-year work program. This is a Florida Department of Education requirement. It's a Florida DOE tool. It is their software. So this is not a document that we generate here at the district staff and we provide a 5-year work program to the board, and that's not what this is. This is a piece of software into which we have to input data. And so the DOE opens that up every year, and they used to open it up in the summer. The last couple years, it's still not open yet. So our agreement says that we'll put that to the capital outlay committee by September 1st. We typically are supposed to get that into the state October 1st. We can't get it into the state by October 1st because it's not come out of the state by October 1st. So we have to start with the state. So last year, we ended up bringing this to the board in February. And it was simply because the work program had not opened, and we have all of this process in our interlocal agreement, so we can't just do it and send it. We want to draft it in the software, route it through the cities, send it to the Capital Outlay Committee, and then we bring it to the board, and then it goes to the state. And we typically will keep the state apprised once they open it up that this is our process, and it will take a couple months before we get it back to you. So that will be coming up. We anticipate it's going to open sometime soon, but realistically, we're not going to start working on that until after the Thanksgiving break, assuming that it's open. The first year of the work program is supposed to be the district's budget. So we take the adopted budget. This is why the finance department works with us. and facilities. We get the adopted budget piece in there, we agree on all that. It's mostly around how we spend state money for state capital money. It's like impact fees are not really even, like we include them because I think it's good practice, but there's some debate about what's required to be in the work program versus what's, good practice to be in the work program. So we kind of look at, in fact, when we did our work program last year, we let the board know that the strategic facilities plan work would be incorporated into this current work program once it opens, once we get a little farther along with the work programs or with our work program. So I think we're on track to get that done. It just will not be done in the timeframes that were outlined in statute because the DOE hasn't opened theirs yet. And this is not just us, this is statewide. So I went through this process, but this is basically what we did last year, same kind of thing. The DOE was late, and it went to the board in February. Expect that to be about the same. The Capital Outlay Committee, this is a regular standing item on their agenda. And so we tell them in the spring, in the summer, this is what the ideal plan is, and then we tell them in the fall, this is what the reality plan is. So we roll with it, and we keep them advised as to what the process is. So the Capital Outlay Committee role in school closures, this is also in our interlocal agreement. So when we identify a closure in the 5-year work program, we'll convene a meeting of the Capital Outlay Committee. Well, we haven't built the 5-year work program yet, but we are looking at potentially closing Cape View, which is a construct of the moving students from Cape View to Roosevelt. Okay. And then we are planning to have the Capital Outlay Committee meeting in December to look at this, and we will follow this process. And the COC representative will be able to come to the public hearing, will be able to make a presentation. Like all of this will be part of the process before the board meets when the board meets in January for the public hearing as part of the attendance boundary change process. So my expectation is that this will happen sometime in December, and we will bring the 5-year work program to you when it's ready. But realistically, that is just, in my opinion, an administrative item that we need to comply with. It is not a function that relates to the attendance boundary changes that we're proposing for Cape View and Roosevelt. So as we get the 5-year work program in the process later on, if the board decides in January that we want to close close Cape View, then that will go in the 5-year work program that goes to the state. So it's a little chicken and eggish, but one of these has to go first. So that's where we are with that. The Educational Plant Survey is another construct of the Florida Department of Education. Used to be we had to update that every 5 years. Our last one was done in 2023. The state legislature changed the law in 2024, and it appears that that's no longer a district requirement. It's not a bad practice, so we may continue to do that anyway as we move forward with any major changes and just keep our educational plant survey up to date. But it is not a statutory requirement anymore, as best I can tell. So all of this process, just to recap, we're working through the attendance boundary change process relating to Central to Johnson and Cape View to Roosevelt. The data and analysis that leads us to the conversation around Cape View and Roosevelt was part of the strategic facilities plan. The work program will be updated when the DOE opens their software, and we will follow the intergovernmental coordination process. The Capital Outlay Committee has quarterly meetings. They've been regularly updated on both items, the 5-year work program and the strategic facilities plan and the boundary changes, and then we will have a special meeting to address Cape View to Roosevelt. So that process will be followed. This is just kind of a summary of the data and analysis that came out of the April work session. If you recall, we have the lowest utilization rate among our peer districts. We have the highest percentage of schools with utilization under 60% among our peer districts. Our capital expenditures are about twice as costly as schools for utilization, our rate as 60% versus schools over 80%. I mean, that just kind of makes sense because you have lower number of students. Similar issues on the operating side. I'm mostly on the capital side. And the consolidation was recommended for schools with low utilization, low capture rates, meaning you're not picking up a lot of students within your zone. Cape View is an interesting case because there just aren't that many students in the zone. So that's a little bit different than some of the other lower utilization rates. There's not a high number of charter students or things like that. So it's just an area that has declining population of students. We have low utilization rates at both schools, and our operating revenue only covers 60 to 70% of the operating costs. So these are areas and schools that are not covering their operating costs with their operating revenue. But most importantly, the enrollment's projected to decline in this area. And we've looked at this a lot of different ways. We've heard a lot of comments about, well, what if, space program and other types of things. We are just not seeing that in the projections. Karen looks at a lot of things like, birth rates and development data and things like that. We are not seeing an expectation of growth in that area. For what it's worth. Both schools are over 60-ish years old, and they need about $6 million worth of upgrades. If we were to keep both open, they both need upgrades. This is the chart that shows the declining enrollment over a 10-year period for both schools. You can see they're pretty consistent, and it's pretty reflective of that geographic area. It's just, we are losing students in that area. The population demographics are changing in that area. These maps show the comparison of what we had in 2021 versus 2025. Karen's looked at this more recently with our October 25 counts, and it's just getting a little bit worse. Not a lot worse, but a little bit worse. So you can see in the red areas, there's a preponderance of what it was in 21 versus 25. We are losing students in most neighborhoods. Similarly for the Roosevelt boundary. Oh, sure.
Private school, or they are just not in the neighborhood anymore?
My opinion is, for the most part, they're just not in the neighborhood anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Like, this is not a charter competition area,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Just wanted clarification on that.
There's some students that go to charters, or some that go to Freedom 7, yes, but it's not the big numbers that you see in some of the other areas where there's charters.
Thank you.
And then, as part of our boundary change process, we do community engagement. This is typical. We have been meeting with the City of Cape Canaveral. We've had informational meetings with the staff at both schools. We've had informational meetings with the parents at both schools. Dr. Rendell and I attended the special meeting of the City of Cape Canaveral, at which they adopted their resolution in support of the school. We've had a web survey open with about 158 responses through last week. And so we have heard a lot from the community. You have heard a lot from the community, and that is the process. When we have a proposal like that, and we want time for the community to reflect and react, and time for the board to reflect and react. So that's where we are in the process. This is information tonight on your agenda, and we will go from there. So this is just the schedule of the process going forward, and logistics. So I did want to just briefly talk about this. We would like to make a decision in January. That is typically our process. And as the facilities person, I've asked this question with past boundary changes, can't we do this in March or something? And the answer is we have to know what we're doing in late January in order to do schedules and the teacher window, and there's lots of things that happen to get ready for school the following year that aren't facilities functions. But everyone is telling me, we really need this decision to be made, not only here, but for any boundary change, so that we can move forward with planning to accommodate whatever changes go into effect. And that includes transportation, employee placement, especially at Cape View and Roosevelt. I think both teams are ready to plan to kind of integrate the cultures of the two schools, and so they're wanting to get started on those processes if that is the direction of the board.
So if you could
Yeah.
back up a couple slides where you had the different meetings, places that, the community engagement, something that, just something else we could do as a district, and even before the January meeting, and not that to say this is going to go one way or another, but we've heard a lot of many comments back of just the unknown, the fear of the unknown. So something that I would like to see us is open up Roosevelt for an open house on an afternoon or an evening, just so the Cape Canaveral residents, students could come in and just walk the school. I think I'd mentioned it yesterday to Dr. Rendell, and he thought that was a fine idea, and you guys can take off on that. But I just think that would be great. That's not committing us to anything other than, hey, I've talked to some families that have never stepped foot inside of Roosevelt, and they were very open to that idea, so why not? It's there. It's just another way of saying, if it does happen, this is where your son or daughter would be going to school, and I think that would be good for us to do.
Yes, sir, thank you. We'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, it's a really good idea, and we've actually already started looking at some dates for that, so.
Okay.
And I think
Ms. Campbell?
that concludes my presentation.
Oh, good. Good timing.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for the thoughtful way that you always walk through this process and help us to walk through this process. Thank you, Dr. Rendell and staff, for attending all the extra meetings in the last month. You guys have been city council meetings and held meetings with staff at both schools, parents at both schools, taken tons of questions. I know we're fielding some questions, but you guys are the ones with all the answers, so most of the time we're getting our answers from you guys. So I just want to start with the fact that nobody wants to be here. I don't think any school board finds any pleasure and finds anything else but pain with the thought of closing a school. Even a school that is over 60 years old is going to cost us millions of dollars to fix up. Nobody wants to be here. And I remember, even though I wasn't on the board at the time and it was just barely a new parent in a BPS school when these conversations were happening in 2011 with the schools that were closed then and the one that got saved. I'll use those in air quotes. Nobody wants to be here. It is a miserable place to be. But I think thank you for laying out that we've been through this process. We've been having this very transparently open to the public. These populations are continuing to decline. I just want to address a couple of things that you've mentioned, just highlighted. Some people have said, what are you doing, have said to the board, what are you doing to promote these schools to get the enrollment up? But you've addressed it, and I just really quickly, not really quick, took just a minute to find it. One of my favorite charts is the from to chart, like where are schools, where are children, where do they live and where do they go? And Cape View, this was from last year, they have a few kids that go to Audubon, like 5. Mila, Mims, like 1 and 2. They have 19 that are already ELOing into Roosevelt. Again, this was last year's data. Only 303 students within the boundary, and I would guess, since this is last year's numbers, it's probably fewer as the population continues to shrink. And so, we cannot manufacture children. Human beings can, but the school board cannot manufacture children in an area where they just aren't. We've also been asked about choice schools. Why can't we turn our school into a choice school? There are 2 choice schools within less than 15 minutes. I know I mapped one of them as 11 minutes away. I think Stevenson is 11 minutes away. Freedom 7's probably 10 minutes away. So when you think about that area, having 2 choice schools already, and South Lake's not close, but but then you've got the South area. If we're going to do a new choice school, I'm sorry, I have to fight for the city of Palm Bay because the closest choice element to school of any kind is West Melbourne School for Science, which is a good 20 to 30 minutes away from everybody down in the south end. It's just that model works when you have kids to come. And I think part of, people are not choosing necessarily into Cape View, not because it's a bad school. It's a great school from everything that and I'll be there on Friday. Board, I did commit to go. I want to make sure I was there before we make our decision. But it's a long way from everything. And it's really hard to do that model when the kids just aren't in the community. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. Again, nobody wants to be here. But it was also brought up to us, that it would be really sad, and it will be sad, to have a city with no school in it. But I just have to point out, Board, Malabar while it's not very populated, Malabar is a huge city. It's not populated because their ordinances say everybody has to have at least a half-acre lot. Malabar has no school in it. And it's a huge chunk if you look at the map of our county, the southeast part of the county. Miko has almost 9,000 people in it, about 1,000 less than Cape Canaveral. These are old census numbers. No school in Miko. Very, very south, like even south there. Right. Grant Valcaria, which is also south, almost has 5,000 people in it. There are no schools in Grant Valcaria. All those kids in those three southeast go to schools in Palm Bay, which if you live on the west part of Malabar, may be across the street. But for most of them, it is a very long bus ride. It is more than 7 miles away. And if you live on the beach side, God forbid, you have to drive all the way up A1A and across the causeway to get to school for middle school and high school. Most likely, or middle school, you can go to Hoover, but high school is all going really far. So we hate those long bus rides, but that is just the reality of living in the kind of county that we live in. I just, when I think about the numbers that you guys have presented of how much it's costing us, those dollars are recurring dollars, and it's not the only factor, but those are recurring dollars that could go into paying our people more and providing services to our children. And because we're using so many more dollars for these tiny schools, and even though Cape Canaveral is first on the list, I will tell you it is not the last one on the list. We've already had conversations, public meetings. I don't want to stir up even more ruckus, but we've had public meetings where we've already talked about Sea Park because it's not only aging, it is starting to fall apart. We've talked about options, that we couldn't get it done this year, but maybe consolidation over on the beach side, because many of our beach side schools are following in the same pattern. The population is aging, the population is shrinking. And again, we cannot manufacture students where they just don't exist. This is not fun work, but I think it is the right work for us to provide the very best for every student. We need to be able to pay our staff more, provide more service to students, and if it costs us so much to keep these little schools open, it's just very, and the reality is, if we close them and consolidate them, we're not creating monster schools. We're creating still relatively small schools, and especially if you compare them to the schools down my end, where we've got elementaries that are 800, 900, 1,000 kids in them, K through 6. It's just, I know it's not what people are used to, but it is common in our county for elementaries to be way over 600 students, way over 550 students. So I think this is the right work. And again, feel for the change, because nobody likes change. But I think this is the right work, and my perspective would just be keep moving forward with the process as you guys are planning.
So we have some responses, on the surveys. On your end, unless I missed it, have you heard of any viable solutions? Have we heard anything that you're like, wow, I didn't think of that?
So I think there are really no viable solutions to having more children in Cape View Elementary. I think there are other uses of the building that could be explored, but that gets you into School of Hope territory or like things like that that are challenging from many, many perspectives, and I don't know that that really gains us anything.
Right.
But I've not seen any avenue to have more children in Cape View Elementary in any appreciable amount without cannibalizing other schools.
And something that we got to keep in mind when I have conversation is, obviously, the biggest talk is Cape View, right? However, there wouldn't be much of a Cape View talk if we didn't have a very similar issue and problem and concern with Roosevelt. I mean, we have two communities that are suffering, the same. With the Airbnbs and the short-term rentals, if you live there, you know the issue, and we've known it. I've been here for 10 years, and it's been the numbers are there. So when we talk about a KPU solution, we really need to at the same time talk about, okay, then we can't save one without the other. They're going together. I look at it as two cities that have an issue. Both councils, both city governments have been faced with the issues of short-term rentals and Airbnbs. They have not come up with a solution. And, this is a result of them not being able to come up with a solution. Not that maybe they could even stop it, but this isn't something, like you said, nobody wants to be where we're at today. But we're at today because of the situation that we have in two cities, not just one. And again, we need customers. You wouldn't put a restaurant in an area where nobody can get to your restaurant, and you're not able to have that. So not a very good, nobody wants to be in this situation. But if you look at on the positive end, we could sit here and talk all day of how great of a program we could have if it does go through, and we have a K through 12 where the same group of kids are able to go to school for 12 years. That would be wonderful for the continuity, discipline, academic achievement. I've had 3 children in that system over there. I've had 2 graduate, and I talked to all of them and said, I know 2 of them have graduated, and I said, many of your friends, they're in Cocoa Beach, but they have friends that went to Cape View. How nice would it have been to have those same group of kids in your school at 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade? And I have an 8th grade girl now, and she's like, that would be great. She's like, small schools are wonderful, but hey, more kids are good too. So I think we would be the shining star in Brevard. Sorry, everybody else up here. I think this would be a wonderful, wonderful academic area to be the K through 12, on that same road, the same kids, and, having the teachers coming over from Cape View that know these students already. But what a good way of getting to know students from K to 12 in the same group. Many of these schools, when you go to an elementary school, they might zone out to a different middle school, or, middle school zone out to a couple different high schools. These kids will be going to school with each other for 12 years, and I think that's great, moving in to a community. So if it happens, do we want to be there? No. But as a solution, it's a really good solution. It would be much worse if we were full at Roosevelt and this was going on at Cape View and we had to find somewhere to send these kids. Again, this is not an easy topic for the board. The district is doing everything they possibly can. This is coming from the district. You guys have been looking at this for years and years and years, and you're bringing the issues to us to make those decisions at the end. So thank you for what you're doing.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say I'd mirror your comments regarding the Airbnbs and short-term rentals. I think this problem has been years in the making, and now we're stuck with having to make the tough decisions. So I appreciate yourself and Dr. Rendell, going out into the community and taking the brunt of it and being blamed for the one that's causing the issue when we're actually just trying to resolve the issue to the best of our ability and to the best of your ability. So thank you for all you're doing. It's not a tough job. It's not an easy job to be out there at the point, when people are shooting at you about something that's not your fault. So thank you for all you do.
All right. Anybody else?
I'll weigh in too, because I think everybody needs to really kind of discuss this. Going through a school closure is not something that anybody wants to go through if that's, if we're consolidating one into the other. I read through all the comments, I looked at all of those and I was like, going, what is the community saying? Let's listen to it. And there was a couple solutions that I liked. There was one individual who proposed possibly making Cape View have all the elementary students and then Roosevelt have the middle school and then Cocoa Beach have the high school, and I thought that's a great idea. But then what I realized after I looked at the numbers is that what we would be doing in essence was now we would be shifting students and we would be in jeopardy at Roosevelt and Cocoa Beach because those would both drop below 50% enrollment. So I'm like, so now we have another problem. So we've saved the elementary side of it and we've created an issue in the middle school secondary world. And so I was bummed because I thought that would be a great solution. I love that. This board, none of us up here made the decision to allow Airbnbs to come in, and it's not anybody's fault that a city is tourist heavy. That's a good thing for our county. We attract a lot of people here, and hopefully they come here, on on vacation, but they want to move here. That's great, right? That's how it all pans out. But unfortunately, none of us created this and still trying to reel from like, okay, what do we do? How do we fix it? I think this is a good solution. I know it's not what the community necessarily wants to hear, but a lot of times people have the worst case scenario, the fear of the what ifs. And then once it happens, they go, you know what? That actually turned out to be an okay thing and we're all right with it. So it's not a great solution. It's not a great position to be in to have to make this decision, but I do believe this is the right solution. And then the other part of this, and I say this lovingly, like, you know, no good deed goes unpunished, but had we taken a stronger stance on pulling back resources from the school, like, let's just say they have 50% enrollment. Well, guess what? You get 50% of a math teacher, or not, sorry, art teacher, or a PE teacher, or media assistant. If we would have done that, that would have made it extremely uncomfortable in the school, and I think people might have had a different mindset. But, you know, and again, this is trying to do what's right by the students there and make sure that they have everything possible. We didn't do that, and now we're kind of left with, well, we have a bit of a problem. So I think that's something, board, just to consider moving forward when we're looking at schools that are under-enrolled. Like, it's great that we're offering these things, but what that does is it takes a resource away that should be available to other schools. And so we need to look at that and take a hard stance on what the school earns, the school gets kind of deal, and that's driven by enrollment. So just something to consider as we're moving forward. And I know that's not a fun position to be in. You don't want to make the school uncomfortable where we're having to share art teachers between schools or things of that nature, but that also is indicative of who is enrolled in that school. So just something to consider.
And we've talked about that during budget time, where
Yeah.
next year, I mean, things may not be the same as this year. So, you know, another thing to look at is, Dr. Ndell, how many elementary schools have a full gymnasium?
Yeah, none of our elementary schools have an actual gymnasium,
Yeah, except for,
Roosevelt, because it was a
Roosevelt.
former middle school.
I mean, it's I mean, the services, the campus. I'm excited about the tour and opening it up, you know, for the community.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ms. Susan.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, I forgot during the presentation,
You
I
don't
wanted
have
to
to
ask,
apologize.
and I should know the answer to this, but I don't. Who is on the capital outlay committee? I know we have a board representative.
So the representatives on the Capital Outlay Committee are appointed by the cities. So typically, it's like a planning director type of person. It might be a town manager in some of the smaller cities. In our case, Dave Lindeman is our representative. So it's, generally speaking, planning staff
Okay.
from the
Plus
cities.
one school board member.
And
Okay.
one of our
Okay.
reps.
And then the other, after, because this wasn't on our agenda at our last board meeting, but we had several on our non-agenda public comments board, there was things that were said that we couldn't necessarily address. I had a long conversation with some parents out in the parking lot. I just wanted to bring this up because it continues to reoccur in the comments and questions that people have. But Dr. Rendell, can you address the issue of class sizes? Because one of the things that keeps coming up is that there will be crowded classrooms, and if we combine the schools, they're going to be in these big classrooms. But that's by state statute. So can you kind of clarify, because that's just not a thing because of our requirements?
Yes, ma'am. I'll try to explain it in a way everybody can understand. So the teacher units follow the students. So when you have a certain number of students, you earn a certain number of teachers. So the students that would theoretically leave Cape View and go to Roosevelt, they would bring that many teachers with them. So it's not like we take all the students from Roosevelt and just dump them into all the classes at Cape View. Take all the kids from Cape View and dump them into all the classes at Roosevelt. The teacher units would come with them, so theoretically, the teachers would come with them. We are bound by a class size amendment here in Florida. It's awesome. It's a great thing. So primary grades classrooms average of 18. So you can have a couple more than 18 in one class, but you have to have less than 18 in another primary grade class. Same thing in intermediate grades. It's capped at 22. So a lot of times when we hear from the parents at both of these schools and they talk about, oh, we have small classes. They have small schools. The classes are about the same size as all of the classes across Dover Park Public Schools and across the state because of the class size cap. So we wouldn't see an increase in the number of students per class because it would be the same averages that they have at Cape View and Roosevelt right now. In fact, in a couple grade levels, they might earn an additional teacher because they're like almost, you know, they have a half here at Roosevelt and a half here at Cape View. When you combine them, you can get an additional teacher. So we actually looked at it, and a couple grade levels, they would actually, you combine them now, they would gain an additional teacher.
Okay.
So it could even be smaller class sizes.
Thank
Not
you. I just-
guaranteeing that, but
Right, right. But I just wanted to put that to bed because that's just not a thing. We have to abide by class size amendment, so we will still have that average of 18 in the primary grades, 22 in the intermediate grades.
Correct.
Because we have to and because it's what's best for kids too.
Right.
So thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate, thank you to you and your staff, and I also wanted to reiterate to board members, Ms. Campbell, you've done a phenomenal job with, all the components of checking where the choice schools are at and everything else. For me, I think you might remember, Ms. Sue, and years ago, it was just the other day that I pulled out those old maps that I had when we were talking about rezones back in 2000, I think it was 19. I had the old maps, and we had how many kids were here and how many kids were there, and talking about doing all these different things. And I had done a lot of research, and I wanted you guys to know there's a lot of research that shows that any school under 700 is the sweet spot, and above 400 for students to learn in academics. You get above 750, and it starts to get a little bit wonky. But below 750, it's significant, and it has to be above the 400 because of the opportunities that are available to the staff. And that goes into some of the opportunities with extra classes, extra teachers, extra science, that kind of stuff. I wanted everybody to also understand that there's a amazing aquatics program that's at the high school that gives an opportunity for if there's a science club or something like that at the elementary school to be a part of. And there is a significant achievement, better achievement numbers when you have a K through 12 that is the size of what that is. That is a sweet spot for academic achievement when you look at the statistics throughout the years. So I don't say that because I'm standing here saying, yeah, we're going to close Cape View. I just say that so that the people who are making these decisions and the people who are out there can understand this is not a bad option. Just like Mr. Trent said, there could be a lot worse of opportunities out there and everything else. And the other piece that I really love is that, yeah, like those kids in the event when they go to take that tour, they might look and see, there's actually a gym here. They actually can go have, my son drives me crazy with what his outfit's going to be because he dresses himself based upon what his workout and recess is going to be for the day. And let me tell you something, I hear about it every time it rains because he can't go out there and have recess. But these kids will have recess into the gym. They'll have all these different things. It is a lot better of an opportunity than it could be. And I just wanted to thank you guys for all your work, and Ms. Hand, your work too. Thank you.
Dr. Rendell.
now, the last comment that I would make is that the biggest factor is the changing demographics of those communities, and that's not something we can control. Mrs. Campbell alluded to it, Mr. Thomas alluded to it, Mr. Trent spelled it out. There is a lack of school-age children in those communities, and that's because of the way the community is operating now. A lot of short-term rentals, not families living in those zones. So this is a decision that, will provide a better opportunity for kids at both schools if we were to move forward with it. That's all.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair, that's our last presentation. We're going to shift to board member discussions. First would be the meeting dates, and the other would be the different committees. But I believe we're going to take a break.
Yeah, let's take a short recess, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back. We need to talk about our meeting dates, times, and discussions. I believe we have the form in front of us. Dr. Rendell, is there anything you want to speak about these dates?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things, the board, we had a slight discussion on this, I think, at our last workshop. We talked about it a little bit, and so we've put together the calendar of meetings based on that feedback. There's one meeting in January, an evening business meeting with a workshop earlier in the day in the afternoon. And then in February, we start the pattern of a morning meeting, and then an evening meeting, and a morning meeting, and an evening meeting for the rest of the spring. In the summer, one meeting in June, one meeting in July. And then for the fall, we have a morning and evening meeting pattern as well, but we'll do the first meeting of the month will be an evening meeting, business meeting, and the second meeting of the month would be a morning meeting. So these are the dates we believe. We came up with all the discussion and everything. I want to thank Mrs. Campbell for catching a couple dates, and there's not any questions. These are the dates we believe we've captured. The board has the right to change these meetings dates at any time, but we do need to send a calendar of meetings to the state initially.
Paul, is it just real quick, because I know when it's an election year, there's something funky that has to happen, and I feel like it butts in right into Thanksgiving.
It usually goes, you have to do the organizational meeting 2 weeks after the election, but next year, I think like this year, the 2 weeks is before
A week
Thanksgiving.
before.
so-
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to get in trouble with that,
Yeah,
so.
so it's not in play this year. It will come back eventually. It'll get
Okay.
around, so.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
just so you know, for the record, I know it's like herding cats trying to get everybody to fit everybody's schedules together. I do have a couple of dates where I won't be able to be here because I'm out of town due to work, but I don't expect any changes. You guys have done a great job with the schedule. I just want to make sure that you guys knew that.
No, that's fine. That's
Can you
fine.
tell us the dates one more time, John, just so we can write them?
I can
That's,
send it to Lena with the dates and have her
Okay.
put it on an email if that
right.
works for you.
we're all good. Everybody else good with it?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, you guys. This is, I like this format because it does a couple of things. It allows those families that have off during the day to come in and speak to us also. But one of the other things that it also does is it allows us to free up to go to other city board meetings and stuff like that. Because for whatever reason, we always fall on the same ones as the other cities and stuff. So it's just a really cool opportunity, and I thank you guys.
Yeah, I think it's a blend of everything that we've had over the last few years,
Yep.
so I think it's good.
Oh, there's another page.
Good. Ms. Campbell, anything on that?
Good to me.
All right. And then our last topic is the board representative discussion on our committees. So you have that in front of you here. I think it had 2025, who was the primary person and who was the secondary. So we can look at since we have all 5 same board members, we can look at it as a whole, or do we want to go one by one?
Just go one by one.
Or one by one?
All right.
Because some of these, there's only one that is specifically chair and vice chair. That's a Central Florida Public School Boards Coalition. But
Yep.
just to remind all of you, that is publicly advertised Sunshine meeting, and all 5 of us, any of us can attend.
Yes.
I'm going to be the chair for the next year, so I go to all of them anyway. But just
You're going to be the chair for what?
for the Central Florida Public School Boards Coalition. I'm the
Congratulations,
vice
Ms.
chair.
Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Susan.
You did such a good job. I'm sure that they were really happy.
Anyway, I appreciate
I don't know why she's laughing. I'm like, congratulations.
So I am there every
Look at
month
you smiling
anyway.
now. This might be the biggest smile I've ever gotten from you.
Yeah, you're
She has recently.
so what I was gonna say was, just as we go through this, if I could suggest a different way of doing, because we always kind of pick and then, who's interested in different things, who's never done whatever before. I know Mr. Susan had mentioned we
That
need
sounds
to
great.
knock SiAC off here too, because it
Right, that
doesn't
doesn't
exist. So we can just
Yes.
go ahead and eliminate that. That would be the other one I would say. And technically, we could eliminate the Palm Beach Youth Advisory Board, but I think we've always kept on it just in
Just in
case they
case.
ever revived it, so. Is there anything else that we can eliminate?
I did nothing at all this last year with AMI Kids, and I don't know if that's
Is it
because they,
still around?
they don't, I
I'll be
had
honest.
no contact with them. I don't even know,
So truth be told,
I crossed it.
when I was chosen as the AMI guy, I picked up the phone and I called them. I was like, hey, guys,
Right.
I'm so excited. And they told me, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't have
Yeah.
you working with us. And then he told me, he's like, I'll go to the board and try to find out if they need you. And he never called me back. So I don't know if it's something that we can look into, but I agree with you 100%.
Well, and the same thing happened to me with Career Source, which I wasn't the representative last year, but the year before, I went and met with them, and they were like, we've never heard from a board member. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure if, I had an interaction with Career Source because of a different situation that we had with them on some property. They were needing space, but I don't know that we need a board representative on there because they're not meeting on a regular basis where they would weigh in for us,
And I think they have a chair for Dr. Rendell. So I think, Dr. Rendell, don't you have a seat on their board or something?
I do not have a seat on the Career Source
Okay.
board, but Rachel Rutledge goes to their meetings on a regular basis.
Yeah,
Okay,
I-
so does that need a board representative, do you think?
I don't think so.
Let's make it easy on ourselves and eliminate ones that we don't really.
Well, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know that Career Source board gets active, but I think that if we called them and said, hey, we'd like to come to the meeting, they would have no problem with us being on there. And as long as there's no requirement, I think you're right.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at these, there's some of these that are absolutely active and they are meeting on a regular basis. So Space Coast League of Cities, that's happening, Mr. Thomas, you were the person for
Yes.
that?
Yeah, so do we want to just start to do that?
Yeah.
Do we want to keep that, Mr. Thomas? Wanna keep
Yes.
that?
You would prefer?
And I have no problem being the alternate. If anybody would rather be the alternate?
And we all can go anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's like if I want to go, I just go anyway, So yeah, no, I think that's great. We'll just put it there that
It is.
nobody shows up, we'll blame you guys.
There you go. All right, the Brevard County
What?
Continuum of
You
care?
want to explain that one?
Yeah. I was asked to be on it last year, but if somebody wants to take my place, you feel free.
Can you
Yeah.
explain what
Can
it
you
is?
explain all the
Yeah.
meetings that you went to on that one?
Yeah,
No.
that they meet quarterly. It's basically all the associations that deal with homeless, affordable housing, that kind of thing. And obviously, we have a contingency of homeless public school students.
Students, yeah.
So
Where did they meet at?
usually in Rockledge at the Whitaker Center, I believe it's called.
Do you know what day it's typically on?
Oh, yeah, that's important as well.
I don't off the top of my head. I want to say Wednesday mornings, but I'm not, it's not a heavy lift, but it's to all the different groups.
Yeah.
All the different nonprofits,
Sure.
they're heads of those nonprofits, and the cities all make up the continuum of care.
Actually, I'm interested in that one.
Oh, you are, okay. Okay.
You are? Okay, so Ms. Campbell wants to take that one.
Anybody else?
I'll be your alternate if you want me to be.
Okay.
Well, okay. I was going to suggest be the alternate because they meet in Rockledge, but that's fine.
Do you want it? I mean, I don't care. I'm not going to fight you for the alternate if you want it. I mean, what is that noise? Why am I hearing like static?
I don't know.
Do you hear that?
I do. It's
Okay.
not, you're not
Somehow it's
losing it.
gotta-
I'm not losing it yet? Okay.
Absolutely.
yeah.
We'll figure it out. I'm
Okay,
right.
so
Don't
Ms.
worry, Lena,
Campbell's
I'm
gonna
writing
be
it
the
down.
Continuum of
I'm writing
care.
it down for you.
Mr. Trent, you want to be the alternate?
Sure.
All right,
And Ms. Campbell's the primary.
primary, right.
On the Value Adjustment Board, there's been some interest. I've been on there for 7 years. If you guys want to, we're in the middle of like a mill right now, like the process. So if somebody wants to be the alternative and take over, like, I think it's in March is when it switches, I'd be more than willing to do that. It's just we're in the process of, we just did a bunch of different things on that. Redid the,
Susan, you know you can't do that. We've been asked for you not to do that, so. I'm not
what's
gonna-
that?
We need a different representative. You haven't done it for 7 years, because I did it one of those years, and I've only been on the board for 7 years. But you did it the rest of the time, I think, but I think it's time to pick a new person.
But we're in the middle of doing some stuff. Can you explain why I wouldn't be able to continue on that?
Would you like me to share? I'll
Yeah.
just keep it very
Go ahead.
brief. Our county tax assessor asked us to have a different representative.
So I think if you're going to be referring to some of the things that Ms. Blinkley had mentioned, and it's the property appraiser, I have a series of
Property
letters that
appraiser.
have been sent that debunks what she had said. So
Okay.
there's some,
But it's, would just be good. I mean, I don't know if you have an attendance record.
Ms. Campbell, there is accusations that are false that were made, and I have a letter from the chairperson, Thad Altman, debunking them. I have a letter from our attorney debunking them, and it's just, I don't have a problem, transitioning off. But to say that I've been doing things that are incorrect and being untruthful about it, that's not fair.
Okay. Well, I don't get caught up in the drama. I just
No.
know what we were asked, and I think it probably would be good to spread that around if there's someone else who's interested in it.
I'd
It's
really
2 meetings a
appreciate
year
if we could,
generally.
I would appreciate if I could just stay on it, and then whoever wants to be the alternate take over as soon as this tax roll's done. We're in the middle
I
of
could,
the taxes.
I do not need to be the alternate, and I would suggest Ms. Wright to be the alternate. in
I
that
don't,
case.
just for clarification purposes, I don't want to fight about this one. I don't understand the reason of wanting to stay on there and what the disadvantage would be if there was a different board member. I can't figure that part of it out.
Because that board does not make decisions. They pretty much are a seal of approval on the
Well, we're a
tax
check and
rolls.
balance to the property appraiser
Right.
to make sure the valuation of a resident's home is accurate, right? That's what
Right.
that board's role is. So I'm like, anybody who serves on that is going to do the same thing. So that's what I'm trying to understand. What's the disadvantage to a different person being on there?
So for the first time, we were able to go through a process that, in the first time that I've been on the board. And it was that an individual from the community came forward during their taxes and said, my taxes are incorrect. We took that in, and then we turned around and sent it back to the special magistrate. Special magistrate sent it back, we sent it back, he changed it, and we changed the ultimate outcome. That process of what we did has to be solidified. And I checked with the attorney to make sure that this is something that happens in many other areas. Our attorney represents 11 other counties in doing the same thing. And he said, absolutely, this is exactly what happens in other places. So, hang on. The thing is that that's the difference of the reason that I wanted to stay on, is that there's a series of things that the knowledge that I've had over the last couple of years can help transition through that process to make sure that it's solidified that people who are taxed inside the community can come forward and present that their taxes are incorrect. And there's a big debate, and part of the reason that I've been singularly sent out is because of my conversations that I have had to try to make that a reality. Now, I will say there have been other individuals, if I may say this, that have missed. There's other individuals that have missed. They're not under target, okay? There's been other individuals that have been a part of this that and one other thing that I would like to say is that at no time has anybody, whether that's the property appraiser, Ms. Blinkley, or anybody else, come to me and said, hey, there's a situation with you being late. And that's what it is. There's a couple of times that I was late. One time I was meeting with Health First. Other times there's things. I checked in with the chair. I didn't check in with the property appraiser because that's not the job. We're supposed to oversee her actions. So I think that with all of that said, I don't mind handing it over because I've been there for a while. I would just like to return and keep it until the end of this tax roll. That's it.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
if Mr. Susan wants to stay on through the end of March or whenever that transition is, I'll be happy to be the secondary if nobody else wants it.
Well, and here, okay, I'm going to speak up on this one, and again, we all have to do what we think is right when it comes to voting on these things, and this isn't an adversarial board in nature. I mean, we're a check and balance to make sure, and I don't think any one of us up here would not do the exact same thing that you're doing, and so that's why I'm just trying to understand what is the disadvantage to somebody else sitting there. I took the liberty of going ahead and pulling the Value Adjustment Board's procedure manual, reading through it. A lot of it's driven in state statute. Like, this isn't like I get to make an opinion that I feel one way or the other. A lot of this is like, this is what the law says. We have to follow the law. So I don't think that any one of us are going to be more lenient, so to speak. Again, we're going to protect a resident's right to come before a board and say, hey, I'm questioning the valuation, and let them provide the evidence that they would provide and go through that process. So again, I with all due love and respect to everyone up here, there's certain individuals that have a job, that work other jobs. Some of us work this one full-time, and that is what we do. And so my ask would just be in the nature of keeping the peace all the way around. Let's just make a different person the primary. And I'd be happy to take that role. I'm one of the individuals who makes this job my full-time job. But if, again, the will of the board, I guess that's one of those fun things, so.
If you guys are okay, I'd like to sit on the board. If I can transition in March, we can, Ms. Wright is very adamant. She's read the whole thing. I'd like to do that. The other thing that we're trying to do is put together a new board packet, a lot of stuff that I think needs to happen. So I would appreciate the opportunity to do that, and then give Ms. Wright the opportunity to take over as the alternate, if that's okay with everybody.
I would prefer it to be Ms. Wright from the get-go.
Just, there's, again, an opportunity that I think. So do we have to?
Gets to say their
Yeah,
Yep.
everybody
Yep.
gets to say their piece. And, there's a lot of different organizations that we can take part in and be the primary and be the secondary. My biggest concern is when I know there's outside influences trying to influence our vote on putting people on as a representative to an organization. And that's unfortunate. I will not go down that road. This is almost a gentleman's agreement here, and, Matt, you've done no harm, and, this is something that if you wish to do, and you've already said you won't even stay the whole time, I'm pretty loyal to you board members, and I'm all for you finishing what you want to finish and moving on to Miss Wright. That's kind of what I would like to see. John, I know you were probably saying primary or the secondary just because.
Well, just
but
so you guys
can
know,
speak your mind
listen.
there. You'd be due just as
if I
well
could-
too.
If I could say something, if Mr. Thomas wants to be the secondary, in March, when the final rolls come, we can appoint you, because I talked to Thorowitz today, and he said there's no problem. He said some other school boards and other boards nominate the whole board, because there's a situation where sometimes one or the other people can't make it to the meeting, so they have a third that goes. It's not like, and I'll be honest with you guys, when I took this thing, Ms. Deskovich did not want to do it anymore, right? Like, she just, it was not, she did, like, it was, good gosh, Matthew, if you want it, you can have it. So I just wanted to finish it out on the terms, that's all, and if I can do that, I appreciate you guys' support.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
if Ms. Wright wants to be the secondary to start off with, when Mr. Susan does roll off, then I'll be the secondary behind Ms. Wright, if the board doesn't have an objection to that.
And again.
So that kinda makes
the
me a
board's
third.
will. I think that it's, I think it would be better, but it's okay, it's fine if you want to stay on there. My vote would be to make myself the primary and you the alternate, but it's going to be, I guess, the board's will on what they decide, so.
All right,
And this too shall pass.
next up. Oh, goodness
All right,
gracious.
good.
Brevard Cultural Alliance.
We're going to downshift to the Brevard Cultural Alliance.
Ms. Campbell, are they meeting? How's that been going?
Yes, they meet almost every month on we just changed it to Thursdays. Actually, there's one this week. And we are a liaison. We're not a voting member. Yeah, it's on what is the 20th is the third Thursday of the month. So it is the third Thursday of the month at 9 o'clock, and the location moves around.
But again, if you look at this and you say Campbell and Wright, either of you want off there. If you don't,
I served on it for a couple of years. I don't have any desire
I feel bad I
to.
wasn't able to be your backup the one time you asked me to go because I had another meeting the day of, and I'm like, I can't.
Well, and I think in the past, they really haven't had board members actually go, so they were, excited. For any time I can show up and give them an update on what's going on in the arts, they're excited to hear it.
so we're good keeping that?
Yeah, I don't
All
have a
right,
problem
let's
with
keep
that.
that.
The next one is whoever the chair and vice
Yeah.
chair will be. And then again, just want to reiterate that we're all welcome to go. There are interesting topics that are brought up, and of course, our superintendents and staff are able to go too.
Okay. Schools Foundation, are we good with keeping it Wright and Campbell?
Ms. Wright, you really like that.
I've been on that one for 2 of my 3 years on the board, and I like that one. I enjoy that one. They meet monthly. It's a Thursday afternoon board meeting that they have. We're a non-voting member. I don't mind staying on it. If anybody wants to be on it, then I'm okay with that too, so.
You good with secondary, Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
All right, good there. Choice Charter School Liaison. Somehow, we elected Mr. Thomas to be both.
Taking volunteers.
I'm happy to
What
move.
was your responsibility
School of
with
Hope.
that?
Taking
Yeah,
volunteers.
right. School of Hope, yeah, no doubt.
I'm happy to move back into that role.
What
You wanna
what
be
were you,
primary?
how many times were you meeting? What was did you meet at
I
all?
did not
It
meet at
doesn't
all.
have a specific role, except for and actually, they didn't pick the liaison to do it. There is a committee that meets in the summer to approve the choice appeals, and actually, I've served on the last 2 years, even though this year I wasn't the liaison, because liaison is more like building relationships along with the superintendent, with the charter schools, and it is what you make it. So if someone else would like to do that, we're all welcome to have relationships with charter schools, but that was some of the things that I did when I was in that role for 6 years, was just try to build relationships, go visit the charter schools, make sure the superintendent was building relationships with charter schools. But then, that other role is kind of a separate role.
To do it correctly and do the liaison, I think I'm happy to do it, but to do it correctly, I'm challenged to make sure I take care of my schools in my district that aren't charter. So I think since you do this full-time, it might be more of a benefit to the charter schools for you to take the lead on it anyways.
Unless there's someone else who'd like to. I think Mr. Susan did it one year.
And I'm happy to do it. I'm just saying, just
That's good.
to do it justice.
That's fine. So Ms. Campbell, you want to move back in this primary?
Sure.
Anybody want to be secondary?
I'll be your secondary person.
The reason we don't have a secondary there is because there's not a regular meeting, so it's.
Okay, well,
yeah.
if a meeting pops up that you can't attend.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, sounds
absolutely.
Just let me know.
Capital outlay,
That's what we were just talking about. That's going to be an important one this year.
yeah. I think that's, I would like to stay as the primary on that. Mr. Susan, you want to stay as secondary?
I can, I just, and you've done a great job as far as taking it to where I was not involved this year, but I don't want to, again, like, I sat on the outlay committee for, I think, 5 years. So if you have, anybody else has interest, I'm more than happy to give them the alternate so that next year they take over kind of
What's
stuff.
the time frame?
It's quarterly.
I mean, nights, days?
No, they meet during the day. It's usually like a 9 to 12 type
Okay.
meeting.
I
And it's
can be
really
your
good
second.
because of
Okay.
the city managers and stuff that
Yeah,
are in there.
no, it's
That's phenomenal.
So Campbell will be the secondary on that. So drop down the school health and safety, Susan and Campbell, do we want to just keep that?
I can if you would like. I'm in the process of doing the presidential youth physical fitness, all the other stuff, but it's completely up to you guys. If anybody wants to take it, they can. If not, I can lead it. It's not a
What's
big deal.
involved?
So I have really school health and safety of our schools. It's like-
Pretty
it's all it is.
self-explanatory.
I don't think they actually had a meeting all year, so.
I'm happy to jump in on that one.
Ms. Dampier, that's kind of your category. I don't know how often they're meeting. Because they help, doesn't the
She's
school
asking
health and
when they're
safety
meeting, like,
committee
yeah, but it's a little
formulate
bit-
the plan that we end up voting on?
It's quasi, so listen, I'll stay on it, right? And then we'll go with Ms. Dampier and work it out. But if somebody else would like to, there's no, like, this is not one of those things that we have to report, like, they can take it over too. I'm not, Ms. Dampier, did you have, the school health and safety, is that under your group? Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
and you still need a school board representative? Okay.
I'll
So
be
Tom-
the alternate.
Mr. Thomas, did you
Okay.
Do you want it?
I'm happy to do it. I want to,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
need to-
fine.
Need to put my name on a few of these blanks.
So Thomas and
Yep.
Wright,
Okay.
is that,
Oh, so.
Wait, sorry. Is
you
Matt
just say
staying on
Susan,
or
Susan
no?
and me?
So
Thomas is
Susan and
first.
Thomas.
Oh, okay.
Right is second.
okay.
Susan and Thomas.
Okay, but Thomas is the primary.
No, Susan's a primary.
Susan's the primary. Okay,
that's why I
that's
said
my
Or
right.
you can take it primary, she can take it secondary. I
Are
don't,
you getting off of it? I'm
yeah.
so confused.
If
I thought-
somebody had
Yes, that's
interest,
what I
I
was
am going to
hearing.
pull
I
off.
thought you were saying on it,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, no, no.
Thomas?
Okay with
So Thomas can be it,
primary?
and
Yes.
then
Right.
Wright can
And
be
then I'll
secondary.
take it as
Yeah.
your
Okay.
alternate,
I
okay.
just need to know when they are.
I'd really like the Palm Bay Youth Advisory Board, just so you know. If I can,
Sorry, you can't, if you don't represent Palm Bay, you can't do that.
So Ms. Campbell, you're keeping that one?
If they revive, we will work it out.
Okay,
Sounds good.
We could actually both be a part.
so Campbell and Thomas?
Yeah,
Yes.
leave it the same there. We're done.
AMI kids, are we scratching that one? I
I
mean, are they
did
doing
already.
anything? I mean,
Yeah.
no, that's,
Yeah.
I would remove that.
If they
did.
need us, we'll reappoint someone.
I would like Civ Mill this time. I've not done Civ Mill,
You can have it.
and I would
Yeah.
like to be a part of that if possible.
if I could be your secondary,
Yeah, keep Matt
I
as
think
the
that you're going
secondary.
to have a series of big announcements to make in Sidmill.
Yep.
So when you go there, you'll be able to talk about the enlistment ceremonies and all that stuff. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So I think that would be good.
I'm fine with
And
that.
that's another one that we all can go to.
Yeah, we
correct?
also,
Yeah.
and,
Correct.
yeah, absolutely.
Thursday night,
In the
Is it
economic,
this Thursday? Oh, I got a board. Well, what time are they meeting at?
6 o'clock at Grand Manor. Is that right, Rashad?
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
6 o'clock at Grand Manor, which is down in Sarnet.
all right.
so just so you guys know, the Economic Development Council, I decided to pay for my own membership. So I'm on the executive board of directors with my own funds. So if you guys would like to add, Mr. Thomas, you were the alternate, if you'd like to take the
I'd love
lead.
to.
And then,
Take the lead. You want the lead on that one?
Yes,
yeah,
please.
and then if there's somebody who wants to be the secondary, I'll attend and I'll be there, but it gives us 2 board members
Yeah.
and Rendell now, so it's a party.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the secondary would just be pretty much ceremonial.
No, there's sometimes, like, they love to have as many as we can. So like, just so everybody knows, they would love for all of you to come to every meeting, and they're amazing.
When are the meetings?
They're quarterly, they're like, Yeah, I'll send it to you guys.
Thursday evening usually.
It's like,
Thursdays are hard for me, so.
I know, I'm like, Thursdays are when a lot of the board meetings are that.
I'll go
go ahead,
as
Trent.
secondary.
And then what I'll do is I'll send you guys all the dates, because they're already set for the year.
Yeah.
And then you can turn around and we can all go. I think with everything happening the way it is, that's a great committee.
And then did we eliminate career source provider?
We did, yeah.
Yes.
Do we want to add any organizations? or-
Just a quick question. Are we responsible for notifying these organizations that we're now taking the seat, or does Lena notify everybody?
They'll send it.
So after the vote tonight, Lena will notify them.
They'll-
If there's a change.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Also, for the ones like Brevard County Continuum of Care, if Alina doesn't have that. will you-
Continuum of care.
Continuum, I know, I can't say that word. Can you provide her with the contact information?
Sure.
Great job, guys. All right. Any board member have anything further to discuss? As there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.